never talking. I'm like, okay, money saving up, let me just sit off of that.
Test 1, 2.
We're good? We're good? We're good? Gentlemen and ladies? Okay. I'll call the Thursday, September 25th, 2025 meeting of the Cumberland Planning Board to order. Roll call. Mr. Zook. Here. Mr. McDonald. Here. Mr. Butler.
Here.
Mr. Scown.
Here.
Mr. O'Neill.
Here.
Ms. Reese.
Here.
Mr. D'Ambrosia, absent at the moment. Mr. Costa.
Here.
And the chair is present. Okay. Item number 2, approval of the planning board minutes of July 31st, 2025. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. O'Neill. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll recuse myself for the approval. I wasn't at the meeting, and I didn't have a chance to view the tape.
Okay. And the ayes have it. Motion carries. Director's report. Mr. Modica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quick, there was a scheduled meeting on August 28th, 2025, which the planning board did not have to attend, but the next item on the agenda was continued to August 28th, so I was here to continue the meeting, that agenda item to this meeting. So I just want to update you on what transpired in 2 minutes that night.
Okay, next item. It's a public hearing, project type, major land development, comprehensive permit, preliminary plan, Haley's Commons. Owner applicant, Haley's LLC, location 75 Manville Hill Road, assessors plat 54, lots 7 and 8. Zoning is R1 with public water and sewer. The applicant requests approval to construct 2 3-unit bedroom buildings, 1 2-unit building, and convert an existing building into 2 units. 3 of the 10 units for sale will be affordable. The project requires adjustments for multi-household dwelling in a R1 zone, residential density, building setbacks, lot coverage, building height, and parking space setbacks. This item was continued from the August 28, 2025 Planning Board meeting. Mr. Modica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the board's heard this item a couple times, and it's been continued a couple times. And when we had the last full meeting, the board was nearly ready to vote. I believe we were just waiting on, some members couldn't be here. Mr. Pimentel, who's an expert on comprehensive plan, couldn't make it. So he's here tonight to answer your questions. The engineer is here, the applicant's here. So I'm gonna turn it over to them if they have anything to add.
Mr. Resnick.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We don't really have a presentation this evening. I just wanted to remind everyone before the continuances, there had been some opposition to this project by an abutter. It was the only letter in opposition that we had received, represented by Attorney Ricker. And as I had reported,
I think Mr. D'Ambrosia is asleep behind you.
Don't put it in.
And as I had previously reported, we were able to remove that opposition from the project. Attorney Rickard emailed me indicating that had been withdrawn, and we had provided that communication to your planner. One of the other requests of the Planning Commission was that we clean up the plan set to reflect some of the items that we had agreed to in other conditions. And so our engineer is here to discuss those with you, but I'll briefly summarize. We removed the need for a height waiver, height modification. We removed the decks at the request of the opposition. We installed an arborvitae. We offered an arborvitae tree line even on their property. They said that wasn't necessary. We do have our landscaping plan that's been added to the plan. The fence that we mentioned that we agreed to has also been added to the plan, and there was some utility revisions that were requested by your staff, et cetera. So certainly Josh Morrow can speak to any of those revisions to the plan, which I believe are up on the screen. And previously, of a mistake of mine, Mr. Pimentel was not available at one of our meetings. And I had said to the commission, I felt comfortable that you may have some questions for him, and I wanted to bring him back before you would take a vote. So if there's any additional questions relative to the waivers we're seeking, Mr. Pimentel is present. Josh is present relative to any questions about the plans, but I think we very successfully did what the commission asked. We removed the opposition. We worked very well with the neighbor, and at this point, I think we have a project that I think it meets the comprehensive plan, and I think we've satisfied the butters in the community that this is a good project. And we would be requesting a vote this evening, and they're at your pleasure if you'd like to ask any questions.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Resnick? We're good there. Do you want your engineer to make a presentation, or you're talking about?
Sure. Josh, if you could just briefly go over the revisions that we made. Thank you.
But before we continue, I just want to note for the record that Mrs. D'Ambrosia entered the chambers at 6:35 p.m.
Hello, Joshua Morrow, Insight Engineers, Morrow. Mr. Resnick did a great job. I don't have much to add. As far as utility approvals, was very minor. On the plan, we added sewer backflow preventers and cleanouts. There was an additional manhole that was requested. We just added that. There was a water gate that was moved out of pavement and into grass. Those updates were very minor. Again, as Mr. Resnick said, we added a privacy fence on the eastern property line for the abutter and satisfied their requests. Other than that, I don't have much to add.
Does the board have any questions? Yes?
Thank you. Not so much well, maybe a question. I was going to say not so much a question, but perhaps a comment. I still have the hesitation that I did previously. This project is asking for a number of setbacks, side and rear yard setbacks. I definitely don't have a problem with the setbacks requested for the existing building. I appreciate that you're using the existing building in the plan. But it's a number of setbacks you're asking for, a density at 18 units an acre that's greater than the neighborhood density of 15 units an acre. I know the pastor from the church up the road spoke at the previous meeting. He's concerned about how narrow the access road is, potential for people parking on that road or traffic. So those are some of the reasons that I feel like I'm not as excited about this project as I would hope to be. And again, all that for the benefit of 3 affordable units. So I just wanted to express that.
Sure.
Thank you.
To address some of that, if I may. Please. Dimensionally, the existing lot and those variances do come from the existing geometry of that lot. Obviously, as you can see, it has frontage on 3 lots. We are bound by the zoning ordinance to comply to front setbacks on 3 sides of that lot and the full rear setback on the 4th portion of that lot. So unfortunately, we cannot utilize side setbacks anywhere on this property. That said, the list of variances is there. And between the meetings we've had and continued, I did widen that entrance on the road, although the access road is existing and it's part of our property. The entrance has been widened to safely get a fire truck and, just more accommodate traffic.
And Mr. Zuck, if I could just add one further comment. I had asked the board to consider this when making this decision, that this project did go before the board at a pre-app at an earlier time. And it came before the board at a time where they were deprived of master. So this project was fully engineered, and it was brought to the board based off of the feedback that was obtained at the pre-app. So I would just ask that you consider that with respect to the fact that we feel that the developer did take guidance from the board and did design this project based off of that. And I would just also suggest the non-conforming nature of the property as it is. We are bringing it into conformity. I think that's a really important a feature and something that should be considered. And I would also note that we, in addition to the positive testimony that you've received from Mr. Pimentel, from Mr. Morrow, we do have a positive staff report, which is also, in my estimation, evidence that this is a good project and it's supported by your staff. And I will tell you, we've reviewed that staff report. We don't have any objection to it. We don't have any objection to any of the conditions in it. And I will say that this developer did everything that he could to remove the opposition from a community member relative to this project. And I think that should be considered, and I would ask that you do that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. D'Ambrosio?
Hi. So we know that there's a fairly significant chunk of this property that is actually owned by RIDOT, and there's provision in here to contact RIDOT. So I'm wondering two things. One, has there been any progress on that front? And two, what is the condition proposed to be if in the interim or if RIDOT's not interested? Are there any provisions to deal with that piece of land?
We did have correspondence with RIDOT on that, and we had a registered landscape architect kind of designate that portion of the lot to be a RIDOT adopt a spot. The vegetation I can't necessarily speak on, but that has been completed and there is a landscape plan on record as part of this application.
So will removing the asphalt from that area be part of this project?
I believe so, yes. To my understanding, yes.
That's not my understanding.
Okay.
Yes, I can confirm that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. O'Neill?
All right, we're sharing mics over here, as you're well aware. Just a quick question, because you mentioned I think you said the arborvitaes were offered as vegetative screening. What is the vegetative screening between that setback? Because I'm not necessarily, I don't necessarily think that the adjustments are egregious in any way. I personally have a 15-yard side setback with my neighbor, and it works just fine because we have a really nice row of eastern hemlocks, about 45 feet high. So if you have a nice, vegetative screening, that short setback isn't necessarily a problem if you really do the screening properly. So I was just kind of curious on what the vegetative screening was, if there was any there.
So my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, I think that we had offered an arborvitae fence on the side of the property owner. We weren't going to ensure that they would live forever, but we would buy them, plant them. They didn't want that. So I believe it's just an opaque fence at this point, and our landscaping plan doesn't necessarily show any vegetation in that area. Is that right, Josh?
As far as the eastern property line, not that I know of, that the privacy fence was agreed upon between the abutter and ourselves. There is various landscape elements that do provide that type of screening. However, on the east side there, it's a fence. Yep.
And we wouldn't necessarily have any opposition to some plantings. I think it's just a question of constructability and what the commission may think is appropriate. But we've certainly, we've offered a lot of, I think we have a good plan. We've offered vegetation buffer to the abutter, and if there's something you'd like to see there, I don't see that being an issue.
Any other questions? Anyone? Is anyone?
No, I was just offering it as way of
That's
example, so.
Okay. Does anyone want to hear from Mr. Pimentel? Do they have any questions for him? Okay, thank you. Since this is a public hearing, I'll open up the floor at this point and ask if there's anyone here in the audience and who may be in the virtual realm, if they have any questions or comments, to please come forward to the podium, give us your name and address for the record. And if you're watching us virtually, just click on the little icon there with the little hand that will recognize you. No one in the, nobody in the queue, okay. And nobody here, okay. Then I'll close the public hearing at 6:47 PM and restrict comments to the board.
Mr. Modica, I just had a quick question. So I'm working off the staff report from July 23rd, and in the planning department's recommendation, there were 5 conditions. I just wanted to make sure that those are still valid, the 5. Yep.
Anyone else? Okay, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you. I have comments, and I may be a party of one. I've been there before, and I've prepared something to read for brevity and clarity, I hope. When I first read this application with the requested number of variances and their scope, I had the same reaction I had when I first read the initial application for a development on Broad Street, which is or was number 6 on tonight's agenda. That reaction in each case was, this is too much. Before the July meeting's hearing on this application was to be heard, I opened YouTube recording of the June meeting on my laptop. The application's discussion spanned almost 90 minutes of an almost 4-hour meeting. Too much during the June meeting was evident when the applicant quickly agreed to install a rear yard 6-foot fence and plantings. There was subsequently an extensive back and forth discussion on the application between the board and the applicant's representatives. Unless I missed it in my reading of the June minutes that we were provided, there was a significant statement by the applicant's attorney not contained in those minutes. He told the board that the applicant had done all that the applicant could do and could do no more after many conversations, primarily with an abutter's attorney, Ms. Carol Ricker. Nevertheless, discussion continued. Another too much was a surprising statement the applicant's attorney made from the lectern when he suddenly told the board that he had checked with his engineer and they didn't need the height variance or relief. Further, another statement from the applicant's expert witness who was speaking at the lectern when the applicant's attorney approached him and whispered in the expert's ear. The expert then told the board that the applicant was removing the construction of back decks on the rear east side of the property line for the application. In that June meeting, the abutter's attorney, Ms. Carol Ricker, appearing remotely, framed my concern about the relief better than I could. She characterized an applicant asking for relief involving every border on the land to be developed as, quote, extreme, close quotes. There were 9 instances of requested lot line relief on the initial application, only 3 of which pertain to the existing building. The cumulative regulatory lot line setback requirements for these 9 lines is 145 feet. The requested relief is over a cumulative 81 feet. If the board approves the application, it is allowing land development with lot line requirements that are 56% out of compliance. I'm mentioning the issue of a density bonus by inference only because the 18.18 units per acre proposed in this application is about 20% greater than the overall residential density in the surrounding area, as determined by the applicant's consultant. This 18.18 units per acre and the lot line relief requested in the application are respectively cause and effect, two sides of the same coin, if you will. In my almost 15 years on this board, I've never seen an application needing relief for every lot line. Lot line setback requirements are not commands. There is a needed flexibility involving the ability to hit, quote, a sweet spot, close quotes, reaching a decision that, as best as possible, satisfies the interest of the applicant, abutters, and the town. But these lot line requirements are not mere suggestions. To what extent do our lot line setbacks carry a force, and to what extent may they be viewed as merely suggestive? If this application is approved, the case can be made that lot line relief in any future application, no matter how extensive in number and size, should not serve as a bar against approval, even when an abutter objects. On Monday, 3 days ago, I called and spoke to the Reverend Father Vasily Lichtvar. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name. He is the priest and the abutter who addressed the board in June. He took my call, and I only had two questions. One, did he still oppose the application? The answer was yes. Secondly, did the applicant or any of his agents or representatives contact him about his position on the application since his testimony in June? And the answer was no. I think for reasons that I've stated, I oppose approving the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Mr. Modica, do you have any response at this point?
I think by the very nature of comprehensive permits and affordable housing, it's, as you've seen in all our comp permit applications, it's not feasible to add more units and be compliant with all the dimensional regulations. So there is going to be some tension there to add the more units, specifically regarding setbacks, because they're adding, it's bigger buildings, there's more units, so there is a little push there. But that's the nature of the comprehensive permits, is they are allowed to ask for those adjustments, and it's the town's responsibility to give those incentives. Those are to create affordable housing. So that's the give and take.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else on the board have any comments at this point? Okay, pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion in regards to 75 Manville Hill Road, Assessor's Plat 54, lots 7 and 8, that we approve the application as it is consistent with the goals and purposes of the comprehensive plan as outlined in the findings of fact in the Planning Department's memo to the Planning Board dated July 23rd, 2025. This approval includes several pre-existing adjustments and proposed new adjustments on pages 3 and 4 of the Planning Department's memo. This approval also includes several conditions. Number 1, the applicant shall merge Assessor's Plot 54, Lots 7 and 8 prior to recording final plan. 2, the applicant shall contact the Rhode Island Department of Transportation regarding the establishment of an adopt-a-spot location on Rhode Island Department of Transportation property located between the applicant's lots and Manville Hill Road. Number 3, ensure all conditions raised by the Fire Department, Public Works, Sewer Department, and Water Department are on the final plan. Number 4, remove the reference to connecting to existing stub on sheet 5. The 6-inch stub should be an 8-inch stub. show a similar dark line to the street. And number 5, record the O&M agreement and the homeowners association agreement. End of motion.
End of motion, okay. I have a motion by Mr. Butler, do I have a second? Second by Mr. Ambrosi. In discussion, just one thing. Mr. Butler, did you note that the memo was dated July 23rd, 2025? I didn't hear that, so I just wanted to
I
make
think
sure.
I got it at the beginning.
Okay, if you did, we're good, we're clear, okay. So with that, I have a motion and I have a second. I will take a roll call vote. Mr. Zook,
No.
Mr. McDonald,
No.
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Mr. Scown,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Reese,
Yes.
Mr. D'Ambrosia. Let's see, Mr. Costa,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. If I got it correctly, it's 7 in the affirmative and 2 in the negative. The motion carries. Thank you, you too. The next item of business is a public hearing, major land development preliminary plan, RI Energy Training Facility. The owner applicant is the Narragansett Electric Company, 1595 Mendon Road, 96 Scott Road, 38 Scott Road, and assessors plat 39 lots 24, 27, and 64. The zone is I-1 with public water and public sewer. The applicant is proposing to expand the existing Rhode Island Energy Facility by constructing a worker training center. Ms. McVery.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the applicant is seeking preliminary plan approval to expand the existing Rhode Island Energy facility into a training center for their workforces. The master plan was approved by you all last year, and the conditions from that stage, like lighting, landscaping, and stormwater reports, have been met. So the project is located at the National Grid site, which is right off of Mendon Road. It includes 3 lots and is about 62 acres large. So the plan is to expand the facility with an outdoor training center for gas and electric crews. There'll be 2 training areas, the North Yard Loop, which will have gas training areas and electric training, and then the South Yard Loop, which will include an overhead electric village and also a substation training area. To the northwest of the proposed electric training, the existing pavement will be restriped to conduct commercial driver's license training, where crews can practice with larger vehicles and trailers. So altogether, the project will disturb about 8 acres of mostly wooded land. Also, barbed wire fencing is proposed around the training center. That piece will require town council approval. So there are some variances that are needed. So for stormwater basin depth, there are 2 basins that will be deeper than the 42-inch limit, and that's to handle substantial stormwater runoff from upstream impervious surfaces on the site. There's also stormwater basin enclosure requirement. The zoning ordinance requires that each basin have its own 4-foot-high chain link fence around it. Instead, the applicant is proposing an 8-foot-high chain link fence with barbed wire around the entire property, which will enclose all the basins within it. In addition, guardrails are going to be added next to basins that are near roadways and training areas. The purpose of the zoning regulation is public safety and protection, and that is still being met through this design. There's stormwater basin buffers, so 4 buffers are within a 20-foot minimum setback. And then there's buffer requirements when a C or I zone, commercial or industrial zone, abuts an agricultural or residential zone. So 1 basin and the perimeter fencing will come within a 50-foot buffer, 50 feet of Scott Road, short of the 75-foot buffer between an industrial and residential zone. So the planning department finds that the project is consistent with the comprehensive plan, which specifically calls this site a priority for economic development. We're recommending approval of the preliminary plan with the following conditions: that lots 24, 27, and 64 are merged, that they obtain approvals from fire, water, and the sewer department, and that they obtain town council approval for the barbed wire fencing.
I just had a question about the zoning variances. Is that something that we're approving as part of the preliminary plan, or is that going to the zoning board?
Believe it's just you all approving it.
Sure.
It's part of the recent state regulation under Unified Development Review, where the planning board acts as the zoning board.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Zook?
Thank you. Ms. McVeary, on the top of page 4 of the staff report, the outdoor training facility will operate between 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. In parentheses, only for special circumstances will either facility be used on the weekend. I'm wondering, do we have an idea of how frequently those special circumstances might occur? And would neighbors receive or need to receive prior notice? I was just wondering about that.
So I'm going to divert that question to the applicant.
Thank you.
If that's okay.
Any other questions for Ms. McVeary? Mr. O'Neill?
Actually, I have a similar question, which may go to the applicant, and I had a similar line of thinking on that. If they do a weekend event, which is clearly like outside of the normal operations, would that be considered a special event requiring town council approval? So that's something I was thinking of, and I think we have a council member here tonight who may be able to answer that question.
Mr. Kinch?
Michael Kinch, President of the Town Council. Mr. O'Neill, I'll get back to you on that, okay? If they need that special permit to operate anything out there. I would think it would be, but I just don't know if it's work-related. I just don't know, but well, I can get that for you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, it sounded like it may arise to the occasion of a special event license, which would be approved by the council if they did some kind of special weekend events there. So, yeah, if you have to follow up, that's fine.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Ms. McVeary? Okay, we'll hear from the applicant.
George Watson, attorney for Robinson Cole, outside counsel for the Narragansett Electric Company. We don't have a presentation, but we have the.
Do you want us to zoom you in, or you're good?
Why don't we do it in case anyone has any questions concerning the plans? I'm already on Zoom.
So, yeah, make them a host.
Okay, so just in case any questions come up, we do have the plans handy, all the 42 pages of them. You guys heard the rundown from Ms. McVeary about the project. I think you've heard from me before about it. We have Nick DeMagala behind me, who's from GZA, who can speak more of the details. If I provide any details, it's probably me just repeating what he says, and he has the expertise, so I will step aside and let him go into it. In particular, Nick, though, we can talk about the reasons for the variances that are requested for the stormwater basin and also protections around those stormwater basins. And as noted before, we've been back before the council several times to discuss the barbed wire fencing, and we will modify and submit that application once we conclude the proceeding here. So.
Good evening, Nicholas Damagella, GZA. Just to start, DAMIGELLA. Just to start with the question about the weekends, my understanding is that it would only be under special circumstances, perhaps 1 to 2 times a year. Generally, they follow the 7 to 3:30 schedule pretty closely.
But it wouldn't be a community event, it would be like a special weekend training or something, right?
Exactly. They have counterparts down in Pennsylvania and Kentucky, so if they were up, there would be perhaps some sort of weekend training for that circumstance. Just to talk about the variances a little bit, there are 3 concerning stormwater basins, which Ms. McVeary covered pretty well. At this time, we're not overly concerned about the safety aspect of it, given that, you know, the site will be completely enclosed by a perimeter fence. And we've taken the extra step to add in guardrails in high traffic areas where employees might be close to these stormwater ponds. I would also add that generally the people that are going to be in these training yards are familiar with active construction sites, so they should have a pretty good head on their shoulders for this kind of stuff. In relation to the stormwater buffer variance that we were requesting, this is in particular in the north training yard loop, which is near 295. This was necessary because the usable area in that space is actually quite small due to some of the ledge outcroppings, so we had to kind of, you know, really maximize the footprint of these stormwater basins. And as Ms. McVeary mentioned, there is a lot of off-site runoff that comes through our property, so we went above and beyond with some of these stormwater ponds to handle that. And the depth variance as well is kind of covered by that guardrail situation where, you know, we added it in for the extra safety. And as I mentioned before, the employees that'll be around this are generally, you know, familiar with construction scenarios. Any questions on the variances?
Mr. D'Ambrosia?
The stormwater basins, you keep referring to them as ponds. Are they retention or detention basins?
They would be considered detention basins. And I guess generally, if I kind of see where you're going with standing water, these all dewater within 48 hours. So unless there's a major rain event, they're all pretty much empty, you know, under normal circumstances.
Okay, I wanted to make sure there wasn't going to be holding water for...
Yeah, there's no permanent pool associated with any of these basins.
Anyone else, any other questions? Mr. O'Neill?
So just, you know, reading through the recommendation and descriptions, there was a description of CDL driver training activities, which will be one of the activities occurring in this new training facility. There wasn't a lot of description behind that. Could you go into any depth of what that kind of CDL training is going to be occurring on site? Is this like, you know, large, you know, class 10, class 12 tractor trailers, or are we just talking about your staff that would be out on bucket trucks, you know, doing kind of driving your regular bucket trucks and utility trucks you see during an event? I just kind of wanted a little more information on that.
Yeah, of course. So the vehicle that they actually use for the training is a bucket truck with, I believe, a double axle trailer. It's equivalent to, I guess, a typical tractor trailer, so they are certified for something like that. In terms of the actual testing and training that they do within the property, it is in preparation for the CDL test administered by the state. My understanding is that it's mostly for maneuvering and whatnot. They practice alley docking, slaloming kind of maneuvers, and they do actually replicate the striping that is used in the actual test.
Yeah, I appreciate that information. I just, you know, I worry about that just because of how close it is to, you know, the south facility, how close it is to some of the residences on Scott Road, and, you know, the vibration and the noise that can come from trucks, you know, idling and maneuvering around all day as part of a training regime. You know, that's something that does concern me, that, you know, if I was a neighbor there, I'd be kind of wanting to know exactly what the extent and duration of, you know, truck idling, truck noise, truck vibration might be on site as part of that CDL training.
Yeah, so I can answer. In terms of duration, I believe it's 26 weeks out of the year that they actually conduct this testing. And it's generally about 4 to 5 people per class, and it follows the same 7 to 3:30 p.m. hours. We tried to locate it as centrally within the site as possible, trying to get it, again, kind of further away from those neighbors that are down there, because the backup alarm can be a nuisance. So we did at least take that into account, but they'll still probably be able to hear it from a distance.
Could you show the location on the,
Yes.
plans?
Yeah, it would be helpful if you could point that out, because I assumed it was closer to the southern end of the training loop. But if it's more centrally located, then that I think would be a little better for the abutters.
Let's show them. Maybe the plan set was only 80 megabits.
So here we are. This is the overall view of the proposed development. The CDL lot is right in the middle here. It'll be on the existing parking lot. This southern yard down here, there's no CDL training that'll take place down there. There'll still be some trucks driving down there, but they won't constantly be backing, up all the time, so.
Is that the location of the current parking lot?
Yeah, that's correct. That's the location of the current parking lot.
I don't, I'm not sure which plans we shared before, but you may recall that an earlier version of this had the CDL over to the right in this area over here. So there was an effort to move that training away from the property line. And the stuff over here, I believe, is that all the electric? And that's, so that's activities that are generally quieter than trucks moving around.
Yeah, I appreciate that answer. That definitely clarifies things, and I think that would be quite a bit better. I mean, that's another, at least, 300, 400 feet or more further into the property, so that's good.
Any other questions? Thank you. And is that the end of your presentation at this point? You have nothing else to add?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
We accept the findings of the staff report too.
Okay, thank you. Since this is a public hearing, I'll ask that if there's anyone here in the audience or with us virtually, if you have any questions or comments, for those that are in attendance here, please come to the podium and give us your name and your address for the record. And if you're with us virtually, just click on that little hand button and we will recognize you. Is anyone here? Okay, I'll close the public hearing at 7:14 p.m. and restrict comments to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion in regards to Narragansett Electric Company located at 1595 Mendon Road, 96 Scott Road, 38 Scott Road. I apologize. In regards to Narragansett Electric Company located at 1595 Mendon Road, 96 Scott Road, 38 Scott Road, assesses plat 39, lots 24, 27, and 64, that we approve the preliminary plan application as it is consistent with the goals and purposes of the comprehensive plan as outlined in the findings of fact of the staff memo to the planning board dated September 18th, 2025. Approval of this preliminary plan does include the approval of zoning variances for stormwater basin depth, stormwater basin enclosure, and stormwater basin buffer. This approval also comes with the following conditions. Number one, merge lots 24, 27, and 64 through an administrative subdivision. Number two, receive approvals from fire, water, and sewer departments. Number three, receive town council approval of an ordinance to enclose the training facility with barbed wire fence. End of motion.
And the motion. I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Scown. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and the chair also votes aye.
Good night.
Very good. Item 6 on the agenda is a public hearing for major land development, comprehensive permit, master plan, Blackstone Residences, 618 Broad Street LLC, Moto Development LLC. Location is 618 Broad Street, assessors plat 11, lot 69. Zone is a C1 with public water and public sewer. The applicant proposes constructing a 16-unit condominium development with 4 of the units designated as affordable. The units are proposed as a cottage cluster, 5 total buildings with 2 4-unit buildings, 2 3-unit buildings, and 1 2-unit building. Each 2-story townhome unit will have 3 bedrooms, a garage, and a driveway. Mr. Lombardo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As an immediate note, this project was certified on August 22nd, 2025. There are 60 days after a project has been certified for the planning board to vote. 60 days after August 22nd is October 21st, meaning that if this project is not voted on tonight, there will be a need to be a request from the applicant for a continuance, or the board will have to host a special meeting before October 21st, as the October planning board meeting is October the 30th. On to the project. This is a comprehensive permit application for a 16-unit condominium where 4 units will be affordable. This is exactly 25%, the total number of units. Units will be for sale for buyers making 120% of area median income or less. The applicant has presented their proposal as a pre-app to the planning board during both the April and June meetings. Since April, the proposal has been revised in response to concerns from the board and the technical review committee. Significantly, the proposal has changed from 21 units, with 6 being affordable, to 16 units, 4 being affordable, with a direct improvement to lot coverage going from over 63% coverage to 39.9%. Additionally, the proposal was changed from a single block style building to a cottage cluster of 5 townhouses. The applicant will require 5 adjustments. First, residential density, the number of buildings on a lot, the dimensional requirements for multiple residential structures, parking space setbacks, and multiple household dwellings. Regarding residential density, in a C1 zone of which the property is located, 1 residential unit per 5,000 square feet is permitted. The subject property is 35,580 square feet. So by right, the applicant can build 7 total units. 16 units are proposed, which for this property results in a density of 19.5 units per acre. This means that the density bonus request in this case is 9 units, or approximately 11 units per acre. For a property that has both public sewer and water, the planning board shall grant at minimum 5 units per acre if it's 25% affordable. The surrounding neighborhood is a mix of uses. In specific, there is historic mill worker housing southeast of the project area. I'm sorry. May I continue? Okay. The surrounding neighborhood is a mix of uses. In specific, there is the historic mill worker housing southeast of the project area on both Broad and Main Streets, associated with the historic Ann and Hope Mill. The density of some of these properties is up to 27 units per acre. A residential density adjustment would not be inconsistent with the neighborhood historic worker housing. In response to feedback from both the Planning Board and the Technical Review Committee, the applicant changed their proposal from a large 21-unit block to a cottage cluster of 5 townhomes. An adjustment is required for this, as multiple residential buildings on a lot are not permitted per zoning Article 6-2. The changes in response to feedback from the town and the Planning Board creates a proposal that is in line contextually with the surrounding community of Mill Village worker housing. Yeah. In order to create a cottage cluster, the applicant created 3 total clusters of townhouses. Of these 3 clusters, the 2 facing northeast and northwest towards Broad Street will require an adjustment from zoning Article 5-5B, which requires a 45-foot setback from principal residential structures if there are windows facing each other, 35 if there are no windows, which is unclear right now. The current setback between the northeast and northwest facing cottage clusters is 6 feet and 9 feet respectively. The applicant will also need to ensure that there is an adequate fire rating by meeting with the building official. As the property's principal use is a multiple household dwelling consisting of 3 or more units, this is not permitted in a C1 zone. There is no commercial use proposed, nor are any allowed with a comprehensive permit. So there is an adjustment required. Lastly, there are 32 parking spaces proposed, 16 of which will be single-car garages, and 16 will be surface spaces. Of these surface spaces, 3 are not driveways, and 2 of these spaces that are not driveways are less than 5 feet from principal residential structures and do not adhere to zoning Article 14-2B, which states that no parking space or aisle shall be less than 5 feet from any building. The applicant will require an adjustment from this use. The Planning Department finds that the application is consistent with the goals and purposes of the comprehensive plan and recommends approval of the master plan, provided that the applicant finalizes building heights to reflect changes requested in the initial May 23rd Planning Board meeting, as well as an assurance that proposed affordable units are deed restricted for a period of 99 years. The application will also need to be approved by the fire department. It is important to note that the Planning Department requests 99 years as it will help keep the percentage of affordable units in Cumberland consistent. The minimum number of years for deed restriction is 30, which could potentially decrease the percentage of long-term affordable units in town, as many of these units will be rolling off in the next 20 to 30 years. As of right now, the percentage of affordable units is 5.54% of all units. And if all projects approved by the Planning Board or pending approval were to be built, the town's affordable percentage would only rise to 6.4%, less than 1 total percentage. Additionally, this is not including individual building permits, which would lower that 6.4% figure. The Planning Department requests this as increasing the amount of affordable housing in Cumberland to 10% is a crucial purpose and goal of the housing element of the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Does the board have any questions from Mr. Lombardo? Mr. DeBroja.
Sorry, I may have missed it in there. Has this project gone in front of the TRC at all?
It has twice.
And they still are looking for approval from the fire department? Is what I think I heard in there.
Yeah, there wasn't a representative from fire at the last meeting, so we still need their blessing for, for emergency access and turnarounds.
Okay, yeah, because that's going to be one of my concerns looking at the plans is how a fire truck or ambulance maneuvers on this site. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, we'll hear from the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dylan Conley, attorney on behalf of the applicant. I am admittedly having some sort of hardware issue. There is no Wi-Fi icon on my computer. So even with access to Wi-Fi, if anyone knows anything about computers, would love some help. But what I can do is I can kind of walk through what we've changed and what the report is more generally.
Hey, Dylan?
Yes.
Dylan, over here. Do you just want to show your plan? Is that?
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I have a nice little PowerPoint and everything, but do you have the ability to pull up? Your report would be great. That I can move right through your report.
We're trying, but we're going around in circles here. Yeah.
Thank you. Apologies for the inconvenience, everyone. But we're here tonight just on a master plan approval. We certainly have a ways to go. It's our third appearance in front of this board. And I think it's gotten much better with each iteration. We've made amendments to reduce the adjustments that we require. We also think that there's a good chance we can further reduce adjustments at the preliminary plan phase. We had a phenomenal discussion with Fire. They were not at TRC, but they've exchanged data with us on what their actual trucks turnarounds are. So we want to base our layout off of not just theoretical equipment, but the equipment that's actually in the municipality. So we're excited about that portion of it. I think most interestingly, when you look at what we were able to do with this site, is it's like we copied the mill houses in the area and pasted them right onto our site. Our two sources of inspiration were the mill housing and there was a cottage cluster program down in East Greenwich, which is Union on Green. It's won a lot of planning awards. That was an inspiration for us as we try to solve the site. The rough sizes of the building, the design of the building are all very, very comparable to the structures in the immediate vicinity. The density is very comparable to the structures in the immediate vicinity. I don't want to belabor any of the points here this evening. This is about the third time we've presented. This site is more refined than the previous one, but not so substantially different that it isn't something already reflected by this board. As you can see, we were able to move all the buildings within the setbacks. We're parking it much more than required. We're parking it fully. So, we're quite excited about it. The standards for the dimensional adjustments is relatively low, as this board is well aware. Given the timelines and time constraints, we would be interested in a vote this evening if that is the pleasure of the board. And I'm also happy to answer questions. I'm a bit blown away by the fact that my computer doesn't have Wi-Fi for some reason. It's a nice PowerPoint with screenshots of every single finding relative to each and every point. The other thing I could do is I could request to move back in the order this evening, Mr. Chairman, and allow the other applicant to present. I would love to be able to actually present our material, and I don't want to waste anyone's time.
Board okay with that? Yeah. Do you have any questions or any comments at this point? Okay.
Very sorry for the inconvenience.
No, that's fine. We can do that. We are quite accommodating. Okay. Okay. So item number 7 is a public meeting for major land development comprehensive permit pre-application steeple and stone, which is St. Patrick Church. Owner applicant is Oneyville Housing Corporation, DBA One Neighborhood Builders. Location 295 Broad Street, Assessors Plat 4, Lot 266, and 305 Broad Street, Assessors Plat 4, Lot 264. The zone is C1 with public water and public sewer. The applicant proposes to revise the previously approved preliminary plan The current proposal will preserve and adaptively reuse the vacant St. Patrick Church and redevelop the property into 60 rental units that will be 100% affordable. The project had been approved for 44 units at 100% affordable. Mr. Modica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Most of you are familiar with this project. At St. Patrick Church, known as Steeple and Stone. In January 2023, the Planning Board approved the preliminary plan for 44 rental units, all of which were going to be affordable. That project would rehabilitate the church, build a new multi-unit building on the site of the rectory, and construct 9 townhomes along Broad Street. I'll let the applicant get into the particulars of what's transpired over the past couple of years. But to sum it up, they are coming in with a revised proposal of 60 units above the originally proposed 44, and all 60 are going to be affordable. Over the past few weeks, we worked with the applicant and their architect to try to arrive at an efficient design and layout that would respect the church, improve the streetscape, and create as much green space and tree cover as possible. The church is still going to be rehabilitated, but there will be a larger multi-unit building constructed that will be in keeping with the scale and massing of the church. For the 60 units, there are 61 parking spaces are going to be provided, and as you know, only 1 space per unit for a comp permit is required. The applicant prepared a traffic study and a fiscal impact analysis, and it's at the board's discretion if you think either of those would need to be updated. This project is also going to go before the TRC for their input, but we thought it would be best for them to come to you to get your early feedback on the revised design.
Board have any questions for Mr. Modica? Ms. Reese.
And the question is, with the 44 units, we didn't have enough parking spaces. And I remember that very well, that we were lacking some parking spaces. And now we have 60 units and we have plenty spaces. So I'm kind of puzzled, and I love to see what they did with the site.
Okay. I don't think we were lacking originally.
No, if you go back, I remember that well, and I remember voting against it for that reason.
I know there's...
Because some of the clients were going to be elder
Correct.
clients, and those didn't require parking spaces.
Right.
I remember that.
Right, and that's still part of the plan.
So, okay.
Okay.
I think part of that was when we
Yeah.
had those townhouses,
Yeah,
okay, and I think that created a situation where you didn't have enough parking spaces. So with this building, even though it's,
they're still not going to have enough parking spaces, but thank you.
Okay.
It's just, I do remember that.
yeah, I'll vouch for Ms. Reese, she's correct. But I can see how the parking spaces are laid out around the periphery, and it seems as though you could probably gain a few more spaces. I don't know if it's 20, but.
We specifically asked them to keep the parking away from Broad Street as much as possible.
Mr. Zook.
Thank you. I went back to watch on YouTube the January 2023 meeting. At that point, the proposal was for 44 units comprising a total of 66 bedrooms, and there were 69 parking spots. There was quite a great degree of discussion about whether that was adequate or not. So now we have 60 total units with 73 bedrooms, and the proposal is for 61 parking spots. So I am curious to see how the math will play out.
I'm going to leave that to the applicant to explain their
Excellent, thank
parking
you.
proposal.
Does anyone else have questions or comments for Mr. Modica? If
Just,
not-
yeah, I have
Yep.
just a comment. One thing, and this project brings me back to my days in the planning department. when we were working on the Broad Street reconstruction effort with RIDOT, just noticing the number of underutilized parking spots on Broad Street throughout the day. I think it's fair to categorize a lot of the impervious areas around here as an excess of parking, not on site, but an excess of parking with the Broad Street corridor. So I'm not necessarily concerned that the increase in the units is going to create a significant parking problem for the residents on site. And I do think that just as a trend, you could say, in the planning profession, is to try and you see this in Providence, you see this in Pawtucket and Central Falls and a lot of more urban communities, is to encourage decreasing parking requirements and increasing density, especially when you have a project like this with 100% affordable housing. So I'm less concerned about the requirement to increase parking on site, given the fact that we've had excess parking on the Broad Street corridor for many years, and there's still excess parking along on-street parking.
Excuse me, I don't think you have been in town or in the valley lately, because those parking spots don't exist anymore with all the schools and the apartments going up. So it's been an issue. So I don't want to create a problem before the presentation, and I want to leave it at that, but I want to hear clearly before.
Go ahead, Mr. Butler.
Mr. Butler?
I don't want to belabor the point,
Yeah.
but I do want to be respectful of the abutters, because that was, if there was any concern about this project from the abutters, it was the parking.
Yeah.
And I think Mr. O'Neill is right. We did have the presentation with the consultant a year or two ago, and they identified lots of, excess parking on Broad Street that could be used to, for other uses at other times of the day. I think the neighbors' concerns is, people who live in this project are not going to park at the liquor store 3 blocks down and then walk home because there's empty parking over there. They're going to park in front of their house across the street, on the other side of Broad Street. That's their concern. And if, the parking lot that BVP is currently using is going to be no longer a BVP parking lot, those faculty members, and I mean, that's BVP's problem, but the faculty, the parents, who's ever parking that lot now is going to have to park somewhere during the day, during the school day. So I do think, we do need to be cognizant of parking because that is the major issue for folks in that area. It's a very dense area, and it's this entire corridor, as Ms. Reese mentioned, mostly because of the schools. But, as we increase a lot of residential uses on Broad Street, which is great, bringing more people to this area. But it is something I think we have to keep in mind. Having said that, the state law does say they only have to provide 1 spot per unit. So whether we want more parking or not, the state says, go pound sand, because you can only require them to have 1 spot per one parking spot per unit anyway. But I think it is something we should take into account.
Right. I mean, just picking up on your point, not having more than 1 parking space per unit would not be grounds for denial. But maybe the applicant is willing to add parking. It would probably come, at the expense of landscaping and green space. That would be the trade-off. Maybe, I'm just going to throw this out there, there's CVS right across the street. I never see that lot half full. So maybe there's a possibility for shared parking over there with the church. And that's all I wanted to add.
Anyone else? Mr. McDonald?
I just, for the applicants, the idea of the funding and Rhode Island Housing, the idea of restructuring this to make it more competitive, I don't want to ask you a question you can't answer, but how close are you to getting funding? The process that you've been trying, how badly or have you failed, or how close have you come to try and get an idea of when we might be able to complete this? It's a worthwhile project, and without having an idea of where the money's coming from, irrespective of how much it is, and irrespective of how you restructure it, it ain't going anywhere without money. So I'm just hoping you can provide some information on where you were with this and where you hope to be. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll hear from the applicant.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Board, my name is Ken McGonigal from the firm McGonigal Hentz PC and the attorney for One Neighborhood Builders. You heard a lot from Glenn, so I'll tell you that we appreciate your time and the staff's time that they've given us in the last few weeks before we came back. There are some really good answers to the problems and questions that came up tonight. We have three people that I'd like you to hear from. First, Michelle Blue. She is the Director of Real Estate Development at One, and she can directly hone in on Mr. McDonald's question, which is really of utmost importance because none of the other things matter if we don't get money. And she will bring you up to speed on that.
If I may, I don't want to, I use the word how badly you feel. I'm not trying to criticize.
Oh, no, not at all.
It's a very difficult competitive environment to get money, but the idea of how close you may, okay, thank you.
She will absolutely talk about that. And then we're going to ask you to hear a little bit from Steve Andrus. He's our engineer about the new civil site. And then Haley Beyer, our architect from Union Studio, will show you some rough drawings and where we're going with them. So, Michelle, would you like to come up?
Good evening, members of the board and the department. I'd like to just start with a few opening remarks and then absolutely can get into some of the specific questions that have already sort of come about. So, oh yes, Michelle Blue with One Neighborhood, MICHELLEBLEAU. Yep. So, just to start, the revised plan that was created, it was created with the goal of essentially redesigning an efficient and well-conceptualized development that remains within the current confines of zoning, as Glenn had mentioned. And so, as many of you may know, the Steeple and Stone project that was previously designed had been submitted to Rhode Island Housing in 2 different consolidated rounds. And unfortunately, it continued to fall short in 2 very specific categories, one being the financial feasibility category, the other being the operational feasibility category. And just to not go too far into the weeds here, but essentially every year there's a QAP that comes out, a qualified action plan, that essentially sets the parameters and guidelines that these projects need to meet in order to score competitively to receive an allocation of tax credits, whether they be 9% competitive or 4% non-competitive, as well as a lot of those soft source and ancillary funding. So with that being said, the project as previously proposed was submitted twice and unfortunately was not funded. The main issues with financial feasibility were really due to the expensive per unit costs that are associated with the church. Adaptive reuse can oftentimes be costly. There's only so many units you can put into that church, and of course it has historic significance, so trying to maintain that character as well. And the other piece that was heard in the financial feasibility as well as operations was essentially the ratio of costs of site work compared to that of essentially number of units that were proposed, meaning it's almost a 2-acre site where it's a very expensive essentially site work initiative compared to a somewhat smaller unit building initiative from what we would typically see on a site of this size, as well as sort of density in urban or suburban area in terms of a site of this size. So, our focus to improve these factors was to focus our efforts on the new construction piece. So essentially, the church, we are not proposing any meaningful revisions there, and that will remain with 21 units with a connector to the new construction component as previously designed and approved by you all. What we're looking to do is essentially simplify and streamline the design of the new construction portion, resulting in one efficient 3-story building opposed to the multiple 3-story and 2-story structures that were previously proposed. And we are adding the 16 units, as mentioned, to the new construction portion will help improve our per unit costs and also still remains within the current zoning guidelines, including the 1-to-1 parking ratio. It is worth noting that the Rhode Island Housing QAP this year and probably in future years is putting what's called a total development cost per unit cap as a threshold requirement. So basically, if you exceed a certain amount, a certain price point or certain dollar per unit, then your application is essentially not scored and you have to forfeit that round. So it's very important for us to be mindful of that. Hence, adding the density allows us to spread those costs over more units, allowing the per unit cost to be much lower. And again, putting us in that range of being a very competitive application compared to others. So, just to reiterate that, our current proposal, we feel, does achieve our goals of adding the appropriate and allowable density under current zoning. It provides a more efficient new construction component that will meet the operational and financial feasibility requirements. Most importantly, the proposed project will add additional affordable units to Cumberland's housing stock, getting you all that much closer to the 10% goal. And it is worth noting that our units will be deed restricted at 99 years. That's what we do as an organization and with all of our projects moving forward. So you'll be able to essentially include these units in your housing stock projections of affordability in years to come. And before turning the presentation over to our civil and architectural consultants here, to address your comments, sir, about the sort of timeline for funding, how badly we failed, et cetera, all valid. So I am pleased to say that the last time this project was submitted, the top 4 were funded and we were number 5 in this particular project. So we are close. And that was when we decided as an organization to essentially take a step back and say, listen, our chances of getting this funded and adding these much needed units to Cumberland is to spend the dollars and redesign essentially what we're trying to put forward. So that's essentially what we want to do. And that's what we've looked to do. And again, focusing on the new construction piece because that's where we have the most control and keeping the church as is. So our plan, with your approval, of course, because we would need the preliminary approval to be, again, competitive in this upcoming funding round that will be due in December of this year to Rhode Island Housing, we would look to submit this project as a 60-unit project to Rhode Island Housing for funding for tax credits and other ancillary sources. And we would hope to hear about that funding award in April of 2026. So that's where we stand on that. And I do feel like, at this point, our best bet in getting these units built is essentially to work on these areas where we were falling short in the funding in the past. Thank you.
Any questions? Mr. Scone.
Yes. What type of contingency is built into your proposal?
In terms of construction?
Yes.
Yeah, so typically, on the church, we are holding about a 10% contingency because of the nature of it. That is actually something from an underwriting standard that we are encouraged to do from Rhode Island Housing. We can drop it to about a 7% contingency if we need to adjust in our underwriting, for scoring purposes. And then on the new construction, we wouldn't hold anything less than 5%.
Okay, the reason I bring it up, I know 10% is normal in a lot of
For
proposals.
adaptive reuse, yeah.
The problem is that you have to wait such a long time for your funding to happen. That contingency may get spread out over a period. The cost of construction is going to increase because of materials, et cetera. How do you deal with that with the Rhode Island?
No, it's a good question. And it's something that we deal with on an ongoing basis with all of our projects, frankly. A lot of times if I, showed you sort of the pro forma and sort of the capital stack that gets funded with the tax credits, and then when we actually close on those tax credits, where it all shakes up, they're very different. And there are gaps and there are sort of levers and a whole toolbox of products and things that we use in the affordable housing space to actually fill those gaps. So that's a very real scenario that happens on the for-profit side, nonprofit side, market rate, affordable rate, and it's just a market condition that we have to deal with on an ongoing basis. So I think the best way to deal with it truthfully is to underwrite conservatively, and then if you're seeing costs on the hard cost side increase, you have that buffer to lower your contingency a little to still help balance the pro forma.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Anyone else? Thank you.
thank you.
I apologize, I did misspeak. Our next speaker is Haley Byer, our architect from Union Studios, and I had said that it was Mr. Andrus, so I apologize for that.
And can I be made a panelist so I can share my screen? Haley Byer, Hailey, Beyer.
Haley, you have a presentation? You have a Zoom presentation?
I do. So, sorry, there appears to be a delay with the presentation, but I'll begin by just quickly running through some of the site photos, context photos. Our site, as everyone I'm sure knows, is on the corner of Broad Street and Church Street. And you can see in this photo the existing church there, which will remain. Also on the site at current is a small rectory building, which is planned to be demolished, as well as a parking lot and a small green space.
Excuse me, do you think you could put your mic a little closer?
Sorry.
Very soft.
I apologize for that. Another photo down Broad Street, you can see the existing church there. And then some additional context photos of Broad Street. Within this neighborhood, we're seeing a lot of commercial uses as well as some educational and multifamily housing. So our proposed plan for this site, and I'll acknowledge that we are in very early stages preliminary design at the moment, so that's why you're seeing more of a diagrammatic sketch tonight, but as we continue through the design process, you'll see more fleshed out design drawings from us in the future. So as Glenn stated and as Michelle stated, we are proposing to locate 21 units in the existing church, and the remaining 39 units will be located within a 3-story multifamily building adjacent to the church, which would be new construction. Both buildings will share an elevator service as well as mail area, management offices, laundry, and amenity space via the connector that runs between the two buildings. And this allows us to keep the interior layout of the church extremely efficient. As Michelle noted, the unit price within the church is expensive, which is our motivation to do that. And that connector also serves to define that green space, which is sandwiched between the two buildings. Within the church in particular, as I noted, we tried to keep the layout as efficient as possible. We are proposing to build an intermediate floor, so that existing church will be 2 stories of housing. We'll be maintaining that front entrance of the church. So those front entry doors will be maintained as a resident entry. They'll lead into a double-loaded corridor, and then the area of the church that was formerly used for the altar will become a 2-story atrium space. Within the multifamily building, we have located the primary frontage and the majority of the building mass along Broad Street. And this was done to hold that street edge, but also so that the majority of the parking can largely be tucked behind the building mass and shielded from view from Broad Street. This has also allowed us to create a primary residential entrance to that new construction building within that inside corner, which is centrally located within the parking lot for convenience. And it allows us to make use of that inside corner for amenity uses and service uses, which are, that inside corner tends to be a difficult area to use for a dwelling unit, so that's a good use for it for us. And then we've located our active amenity spaces on the ground floor along Broad Street. And utility and zoning, utility and loading and unloading zone will be located at the rear of the building and away from Broad Street and shielded from view. That front elevation, we've matched the plane of the existing church. Our goal is to complement the church and not compete with it. And then you will see along that front building frontage as well, we've stepped a portion of the facade back. Our goal is to use architectural elements such as that to visually reduce the scale of the building. And unless anyone has any specific questions for me, I can turn it over to Steve.
Any questions?
Just before Steve comes up, I did want to point out one thing. Planning Board Member Reese's comments were exactly how we remember it happening a couple of years ago. But she and you all may also remember, and we'll talk about it more in depth when we come back for seeking approval, is we still have a memorandum of understanding with PACE, which I know you remember. And those people, to be in the PACE units, they will by contract not be able to have automobiles. And that's 10 units. So our last presenter tonight is Mr. Andrus from Commonwealth Engineering to discuss the civil layout with you all.
Good evening. My name's Steve Andrus, and I'm an engineer with Commonwealth Engineers, ANDRUS. And so I just wanted to talk to you briefly about the revised site plan. As you can see, we kept most of the parking along the southern end of the property where it was, and as well along the eastern side along the top of the bank. We did move the handicap parking spaces and the PACE bus over to the south end of the building to make it a little closer on the handicap runs. We've kept the alignment in the back area as it was. The fire department had requested and previously approved the one-way exit out onto, I can't remember the name of the street, Church Street. So we've kept that the same. The impervious on the site currently is at about 67. I rough calculated the 71 and a half if I put back all of the stairs and handicap ramps and HVAC pads and everything else that we had before. Came up with a 71. I'm not anticipating meeting all of that, but we haven't completely worked out the site plan yet. So I left it at the 71 and a half, which was less than the 72 and a half we were approved on before. We are planning to keep the stormwater management will all be underground infiltration with no stormwater ponds or no increasing stormwater runoff to the neighbors or to the DOT right of way. In our last plan, we were approved by the Cumberland Sewer Department, we need to extend the sewer main down Broad Street. It stops one intersection back. We intend to keep that the same and be connecting into the same spot. It'll just be changing on the site. And we've worked with Pawtucket Water Service Board, and we'll be working with them. We may need to add a hot box with the layout that we have now, but I'll have to determine that when we start working with them. As Ken mentioned, the PACE folks will still be with us, so we have a total of 60 parking spaces, but one of those is dedicated to the PACE bus, so we have 60 spaces for 60 units, plus we have the PACE bus parked on site, and we have the loading zone that was previously requested in the rear area for deliveries in a
have any questions? Mr. D'Ambrosio?
This is a little bit more of a comment. Looking at the site plan right now, the new building is, I see how it's aligned with the church. It's askew from Broad Street, and it's creating kind of an open space along Broad Street between the building and the street, which is not particularly usable space for folks here. And I know that some of my fellow members here are going to probably talk about parking. One thing you may want to consider is realigning that new building so that it's parallel with Broad Street, decreasing some of that kind of unusable green space. You may be able to squeeze a few more parking spots in the back or increase some of the green space that you have at the back that might be a little bit more usable. So it's just kind of, I know the architect talked about keeping the character of the street. A lot of these old streets, the buildings are pretty much parallel with them. This one, as I'm looking at the plan, it just kind of bothers me a little bit, and it makes me think that you may be able to tweak the site and the building placement just a little bit to kind of maximize the usability of the space. Something to consider.
Well, we could look at that, sir, but if I twist that building from where it's at, you just bumped out a whole bunch of parking because you got to be 5 feet from it. So if that building moves to a line, unless we pull it back closer to the church, you know, it was a line to stay with the church, and then, I don't know, the parking all kind of fits with the property lines and
yeah, just food for
meets all
thought.
the criteria, but I can work with Haley and see what we could do with that. I will also note that all those beautiful green trees are just my work. I haven't had the landscape architects back involved yet. And so we will have a revised architect's plan, and she's much better with those green spaces than I am. Yes, ma'am.
So if I recall, I think this building is the way it is because we asked for that green space in the front. We wanted to see some green. We didn't want that building right on Broad Street, am I right? And
Yes,
that's,
well,
maybe that's why it's.
Before the townhouses had,
Before
two of them had
variance,
variances. We were only like
right.
13 feet
Okay.
back from the property line, so
So
everything
I
is.
actually like it the way it is. I want to see some space between, if you line that up, it'll be closer to Broad Street, right? It'll be right on Broad Street.
Yes, because
And I don't want
if we tried to move it so we went back, we'd
Yeah.
be pinching off the emergency
No, it's
road,
right.
the loading
It's a
dock and
huge
things, so
building.
it's.
Okay, thank you.
It's all a balancing, and like I say, the parking barely meets it. I'm 10 feet off the street, 5
Yeah.
feet off the property line, 5 feet off the
Feet off-
building.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Costa?
assuming that this project is funded in April, when do you anticipate construction, the beginning of construction?
Typically fairly soon afterwards. I mean, we got approval in April, Taunton? We got approval in East Providence on the last funding round, and buildings are going up. That's a little over 2 acres, but it's 150 units with 4 four-story buildings and 140 parking spaces. And that's well underway at this point.
Okay, just curious.
If I could just add one point to that. So it all depends on what funding sources we get in terms of how the closing timeline goes, but typically what we would look to do is essentially issue, if we're funded in April, we would start to issue our notice, or early notice, or limited notice to proceed by Q4 of that same year, with full construction notice to proceed to happen upon the LIHTC closing, which would probably not be until, the soonest the LIHTC closing would be the end of next year or beginning of the following. So timeline is a little dependent on the sources to pay the contractor, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Butler?
I didn't have any questions, just a couple of comments. I like this much better than the original plan. I've been a big proponent of this project since the beginning, and I won't beat a dead horse, but all the reasons why I think we should do everything we can to get this built. But, the original concept was the townhouses, pretty close to Broad Street. which I was fine with. I understood the architect's vision that everything else on Broad Street is kind of close to Broad Street, so it creates some continuity. Having said that, I agree with Ms. Reese. I think it's nice to come down Broad Street and have that little breakup of green space that's currently there. So I think having one building as opposed to the townhouses and having that one building pushed back a little bit creates that green space and kind of breaks up a lot of that clutter in that area of Broad Street. So I like that much better. I am happy that the mix is kind of moving from 2 and 3 bedrooms to more 1 bedrooms. When, again, not to beat a dead horse with parking, but I think one of the concerns we had last time with parking was that under the state law, it's 1 parking space per unit, whether that's 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, you're only required to have 1 parking space. And the concern, certainly that I had, probably other members had, was that the more 2 and 3 bedrooms you have, the more likely it is that there's going to be 2, 3, 4 cars and 1 parking spot. So, we're reducing, you're reducing pretty significantly the number of 2 and 3 bedrooms. So even though the number of bedrooms is increasing, it's where, you're adding 1 bedrooms and taking out 2 and 3 bedrooms that are more likely to create more parking needs. So I also think that that's really good. So I, remain a huge advocate of this, in all the years that I've been on the planning board. I don't remember any other projects coming to town with 100% affordability and, 60 some odd units. And, I fear that if this project isn't successful getting the funding that, as I've said before, we're gonna end up with a gas station or a pharmacy or some other commercial use on that space because no one else is ever gonna be able to afford to reuse that church building. And I think that would be a really real shame for this area of town. So I think from my perspective, anything the town can do to help move this over the finish line, we should do. So.
Anyone else?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your comments, and I will say that I know parking is a concern, and we have looked at it for other clients and similar. We did some early morning drive-bys of facilities, and they're not using the parking.
Yeah, and I
quite frankly, people that are in the 30 to 60% AMI might not even own a car at all, or if they do, there's only, even if it's a couple, there's only 1 car. They can't afford.
I completely, as part of my job, I go to a lot of senior housing complexes, apartment complex, and I've never had trouble finding a parking space, whether I'm doing presentations in the morning, the afternoon, at night. I mean, never, ever have I ever found a parking lot that's completely full. So, I agree. We kind of build up in our heads, everybody's got 2 or 3 cars, but a lot of times people living in these communities where there's multiple units, people have no cars, they're using public transportation. You mentioned the elderly folks that are going to be part of PACE who are not going to be allowed to have cars. People have different schedules. You have people out in the morning, people out in the afternoon, people out in the evening. Again, in this particular area, I think the biggest concern is the schools and the amount of parking that they need during the school day. And again, I want to be cognizant of the feedback from the neighbors that, like tonight when there's an event happening at the school and you've got all these parents and all these people coming in, people will not walk 2 blocks. They will park in any available place as close to where they're going as possible. And if that's in front of somebody's driveway, it's in front of somebody's driveway. If it's in your parking lot, it's in your parking lot. And so we have to be cognizant of it. But again, the state law says 1 parking space per unit, so we can't deny the application based on parking anyway. But I think reducing the number of 2 and 3 bedrooms and replacing them with 1 bedrooms will at least help. So.
Mr. Scum?
Yeah, I have a question. You had mentioned that the fire department had okayed the exit ramp. There's an elevation change there considerably, and I think a cement wall that's pretty close to the railroad bridge.
There is there, sir. There's actually a historic stone wall with a wrought iron fence on the top back there. It's about 4 feet tall, and we're putting a little, like a Versalock wall to try and match that as close as we can, and we're limiting the width of that opening because it's just the one way out down to the 12 feet. I also had previously convinced Pawtucket Water Service that even though they didn't want to come in through there, that I wanted to bring the water lines down through that roadway because I want to minimize any disturbances to that wall and to that fence. So by building the other wall up to it first from the outside, we can really limit how much of that wrought iron fence needs to be removed, and maybe just a little bit of the top of the existing wall, you know, and then the sidewalk, and it'll be like a cement driveway going out standard.
Now, is it the town that approves the curb cut there? Because there's no curb cut.
No, the town would approve the curb cut as part of our
So you don't know whether you
submittal.
could get that or not.
Excuse me?
You don't know whether you could get that or not.
Well, we were all approved for it before. I mean, it was reviewed by the DPW. We had, for the preliminary plan, it'd been through the DPW. They'd reviewed our stormwater. I had applied separately to the sewer department and got approval for the sewer extension and the connections that we had before. So, I mean, I gotta redo the design and run the numbers and reapply, but I'm not expecting any issues.
That was my original thought, not the original plan to exit there anyway, so I just wanted to make sure that it was gonna be approved. That's, I mean.
Yeah, no, I mean, the curb cut needs to be approved or had been, you know, shown before, and because we're also got to alter the guardrail there a little bit, because there's a guardrail on the sidewalk coming back there to that bridge. But.
And just the other point in regard to parking, this area is serviced by public transit, so.
Yes.
I mean, that's a big issue here because of the line that's going by there. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. O'Neill?
Just a comment to add to Mr. Butler's comments. You know, it just gets me thinking. I've loved this project from the beginning when I first heard about it, and I'm just glad to see that we're able to bring this type of adaptive reuse to the town. Cumberland has a very exemplary history of finding public beneficial use for former religious properties. If you look at the monastery, Sisters of Mercy, Mercy Woods, and I think this is just another great project that could have a lot of beneficial impact on the town of Cumberland by providing 100% affordable housing. So just adding to what Mr. Butler said, I think it's a great project, and I hope we can find a way to make this work.
Thank you. And I will echo Mr. Butler's and Mr. O'Neill's comments. I don't need to add anything more. I think we're headed in the right direction. And I do like this much better. Even though I was okay with the townhouses, having them so close to the street gave me a little bit of concern, because it makes it look like it's too tight. So having said that, and with anything else to add? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep, we are going to take a brief recess.
With the following two conditions. One, that the applicant finalizes building heights to reflect the changes requested at the initial May 23rd, 2025 Planning Board meeting, and that the proposed affordable units be deed restricted for no less than 99 years. End of motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second?
I'm sorry, there was also the condition of fire department approval.
And,
yes.
Condition number 3, that the fire department provide their approval for the project.
And a second, I have a motion by Mr. Butler, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may, the 99-year deed restriction goes beyond that of the state law requirements for complying with the comp permit standards. I do not know that we would be able to comply with that and still build the project. This is not a funded project. There is no grant funding associated with this project at all. This is pure privately financed. The only incentive for us to do this is the zoning incentives. So the 99-year restriction weighs heavily on our capacity to build.
So the comp permit, it's a range between, it's 30 minimum, the maximum is 99. So we can have further discussions with the applicant and see if we can come to some agreement on the term.
Thank you.
And that's fine with the board?
I think the town has set a standard of 99 years, so I wouldn't approve anything unless it was 99 years. So
The reason
I
we-
can separate out the deed restriction from the motion if you want. And so it would just be the two conditions as opposed to the 99 and see what the 99 at
And then we
preliminary
could see
plan.
where we are at preliminary plan at that point. I mean, like Mr. Lombardo said, the reason we ask for 99 years, in what we have now, we have a lot of affordable housing properties that are going to roll off the rolls, and we're going to just lose them. So that's, and if this is only 30 years, we're going to lose this at the same time they're losing a lot more. So that's the reason we asked for 99, is because we're trying to get up to 10% and stay there.
And we're approving, 5 adjustments based on this affordable housing. Those adjustments will go beyond 30 years. So, I'm happy to take that condition out for master plan approval, and we can revisit a preliminary plan if that's what folks want to do, but I just want to be on the record that I think the town has now set a standard, and every other application we've approved, with the exception of 1 or 2 that I can think of that kind of came early in the process, have all been 99 years, and I think that's a standard we should make people live by if they want to go through this comprehensive permit process and get these adjustments that we would not normally probably approve.
I think the board will agree to eliminate that at this point and revisit it at preliminary. Okay.
Thank you.
So moved.
Before we vote, I just want to.
Yeah, under discussion, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to acknowledge the comment that the lady made about the child with asthma that attends BF Norton, and that she's concerned about this construction and the increased potential danger that the child will encounter. And I just want to make part of the record that the child is now exposed to construction at BF North. So to clarify, I don't want to be saying, oh, we ignored the lady.
Okay.
She made a comment about a child being.
Yes.
But in actuality, the child is already exposed.
Yeah, okay. So noted. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes yes, motion carries.
Thank you all very much.
We look forward to seeing you at preliminary.
Me too.
Okay, item number 8. Public meeting. Minor land development comprehensive permit pre-application. Project name AJ Home Addition. Owner applicant Ahmad. Is he here? Jerbawi, okay, thank you. Location 50 Oakwood Avenue, Assessors Plat 9, Lot 287. The zoning is R2 with public water and public sewer. The applicant proposes to construct a 2-family residential building on the subject property. There is a 2-family house pre-existing on the property. Of the 4 total units, 2 will be designated as affordable. Ms. McVeary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you just stated, the applicant is proposing to build a new 2-family house at 50 Oakwood Ave under a comprehensive permit. The property is about 16,500 square feet, and it already has a 2-family house on it. With this proposal, the site would have a total of 4 units, and 2 of them would be designated as affordable. The new house would be built on lot 287 and be 2 stories tall. Each unit would include 2 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, and about 1,200 square feet of living space. The building would stand just under 29 feet high and would have a driveway with a space for at least 2 vehicles. Just want to note the surrounding neighborhood is zoned R2, but all of the houses on Oakwood Avenue are single-family homes. There are some adjustments being requested. So first, for residential density. Under R2 zoning, this lot would already be maxed out with 2 units. But under a comprehensive permit, when half of the units are affordable, the law allows up to 9 units per acre. On this 0.38 acre lot, that would mean up to 3 additional units. The applicant is only requesting a bonus of 2 units, which brings the total to 4. Second, dimensional requirements for multiple residential structures. So the zoning ordinance requires 30 feet between 2 family principal structures on one lot. The proposed separation here is only 14 feet, so that's a 16-foot adjustment that is needed. Number 3, number of buildings on a lot. So in an R2 zone, that only allows for 1 main building on a residential lot. This proposal would have 2, so that's another adjustment. And then for lot coverage, the maximum allowed in an R2 zone with public water and sewer is 40%. The applicant hasn't stated on their plans what the coverage calculation would be, so that might be an adjustment. So the planning department is recommending a few conditions if this does move forward. So first, to reduce the amount of impervious surface, especially the proposed driveway in front of the house, the new house. Second, to narrow the proposed driveway so it's 20 feet and more in line with the other driveways in the neighborhood. And third, to ensure that the affordable units are deed restricted for a full 99 years.
Board have any questions for Ms. McVeary? Okay, we'll hear from the applicant. Mr. Partington.
Oh, Scott, I can't find the plan attachment, and I can't get onto our drive from here, so.
I don't know if, and again, I asked Mr. Jabawi to bring his laptop. I don't know. I mean, again, we are at informal concept review, but I think it's kind of, I just want to at least get you an idea of what the lot looks like. And again, the planning department has been, I think it's a good practice that we don't get into any heavy engineering for informal concept review. I think it's helpful. We get an idea. It gives the landowner and/or developer the opportunity to just consider what your comments may be. As was pointed out, with the affordable component here, I mean, they are asking, and considering what you've been hearing lately over the past several months with respect to comp permits, someone coming in and actually asking for less of a density bonus than what would be permitted is, however small, I'm sure is a positive. With respect to the conditions that were placed, I mean, I think that, as also was pointed out, in the absence of a real surveyed site plan at this point, there may be an issue with lot coverage, and that may be to our advantage since Cumberland does include all impervious surfaces in that calculation. So it would be, could be to our benefit, and I don't think that's going to be really an issue. With respect to also, I'm not really sure, also with the absence of a site plan, exactly whether there's going to be any other variances that will be required with respect to setbacks. I don't, and I'm not really sure, at this point, I don't want to create unnecessary questions, but I'm not really sure how the design of the house, if I'm correct, when you have the one house that's existing that's facing the street, and then you have two, I guess if you're looking to the front, east, I don't know in the plane east-west, but looking to the front, to the right, there will be the house that will be, it's not an L, it's a T, I guess, would be something like a T is more appropriate. So as opposed to what front yard's going to be for that building, side yards, rear yards and all that, that's gonna have to be something that we go through, and hopefully we can minimize the number of variances that are gonna be needed. With respect to, to the surrounding area, I mean, it is an R2 zone. It may be predominantly single-family at this point, but it is zoned R2, and there are two-family, it's already existing two-family, but again, with the comp permit rules, we're trying to comply, and I think that the project offering basically complete, the 2 units that are going to be added are going to be affordable. So we just wanted to get, as is normally the case at this stage, feedback. And I don't anticipate any problems with the conditions that Ms. McVeary has at least at this stage, has put forth.
Mr. Zook?
Thank you. There's 2 houses directly across the street from this lot that seem to remind me a little bit of this proposal, in how it looks a little bit.
It does, yeah.
And my question is, the height of this new building, do we know, is that approximately similar to the height of those 2 houses across the street? Just so I can envision.
I would, I'd be speculating completely, I don't know. I mean,
fair enough.
Is it 35 and R2 height? I don't know, and I don't think, unless it's, I don't see why it would be a problem at this point. Again, we're at pre-app to make sure that that's something that's observed for some continuity. I don't think it's going to be a problem.
It's
And I'm not
28 feet, 6 inches to the ridge.
of the proposed building.
Right, but he's
I
asking.
was wondering how that compares to the existing houses across the street. And I'm not trying to propose that it needs to be the same or that needs to be a condition or anything. I was just, the thought occurred to me when I was on that street that those houses might
Sure.
seem pretty similar to what's proposed here. So I was just wondering.
Sure.
Scott?
Yes.
What is the height of the single-family house next door? What is the height of the single family next door?
I do not know, Mr. Scown. I don't know. I know, I do know, again, the buildings that the existing building on our lot, and the height has been indicated, and what is it? I think the existing is it's probably about 2,500 square feet, I think, the floor, at least the floor of our building, but I don't have that answer. And I would imagine that's something, and I assumed in conversation that in light of the way this is going to be laid out, there would be questions about the abutter on that side. I sort of presume that would be a potential issue.
Mr. D'Ambrosio?
This might be a question more for Mr. Modica, but my understanding is that one of the items that they're looking for relief for is how many buildings are on the lot.
Yes.
Now, being that it's in a R2 designated area, that means that you could have multiple units within one building. So in this case, the applicant has a little bit of extra space on the side, and they're trying to place a whole new building with 2 more units. And is this something that, and maybe I don't know if I should know this or not, but is this something that we want? Is this part of the comprehensive plan? Because this doesn't seem like if we approve this, I feel like we're opening up a bit of a Pandora's box here with shoehorning smaller units. It's not an accessory dwelling unit, which is a different animal.
That's coming, I'm sure.
I'm just a little bit concerned about what the precedent is that we'll be setting with this case.
Right. So affordable housing is obviously, big part of our comp plan. And in this, I mean, the one, we've seen a couple projects tonight where there are multiple buildings on a lot. This is unique though, because we have an existing building where they're building new. The other option that we had considered is to create another lot. And then we're going down another path that I don't know if we want to go down, is starting to create non-conforming lots. So we felt like we never create a non-conforming lot. We don't want to do it. We still don't want to do it. So this was the alternative.
Yeah, it seems much different than the previous projects that we've seen, because those are condo units or they're apartment units. This is a single, well, I mean, looks like it was at one point a single-family unit maybe, and now they're adding a whole separate building. So in the future, if this is deed restricted, how does that translate to new ownership? Is it going to have something set up like a condo association or something like that? I'm just wondering how that translates as we move down the road.
I think these are going to be for rent, not for sale, or were they for sale? I forgot.
Come on.
Well, are you proposing condominiums or rental units?
Hold on one second, hold on. Ahmad, hold on one second.
Microphone.
Come on up.
Hello, guys. How are you? Ahmed Jabawi, AHMADJBAWI. You are.
Okay. For the new housing you're proposing, are they going to be for rent or for sale?
Yes, it's gonna be for rent.
For rent.
But
Okay.
he
So-
asking if what's gonna happen if I decided to sell them in future? I'm gonna sell the whole property with 2 buildings on it.
So there wouldn't be an HOA to maintain it? I mean, it would be up to the owner, right, to maintain the whole property?
I think too, if I may, Mr. Mark, I didn't interrupt. I can understand your point that it seems to be conceptually different than what you've seen because you're in a neighborhood with single-family houses, and now it seems to be akin to the ADU monster, and that this town, as you probably are well aware, has not passed yet, and refuses to pass to comply with state law. It is more akin to that, I think, based on just what you see visually. Certainly, you're correct in that observation. I think that, but again, the old adage about the system provides, in fact, they've come in and they've observed the comp permit advantages and bonuses actually less than what would be required. So I think it's just that baseline, that simple. I mean, if going forward there's an objection conceptually to the fact that you don't want to see these in residential neighborhoods, that's certainly the planning board's prerogative. But I do think at that point, you're running into a situation where you have density bonuses that are within the limits, and the question becomes at that point whether, the other dimensional, of course, we always try to limit the amount of dimensional variances that we need to make it more palatable, but.
Right, and I get the density bonus when it's a new project, when it's a clean site or it's a rehab or something like that. But this feels different in that there's already a house there that's a multifamily house, and now we're adding, I think the report says that if the lot were split, it would be 0.09 acres maybe. Is that?
Actually, I think they are 2 lots, aren't they? And I wonder, my question was, I'm not really sure, and I gotta go, hasn't dealt with this in a while. I remember a project years ago, I think it was on the valley somewhere, where have these lots merged by operation of law, if in fact the structure is across. That may be the case. It's been a while since I've looked at that. But they could actually have merged.
So the minimum lot size is 15? Go ahead.
You're right, it was right here in the valley.
Yeah, I can't
It
remember.
was the sales property right on,
Was it on East or West Earl?
yeah, no, it was before.
It was before? Okay. And that was a while ago.
Before Dexter.
And so that may be, and as a matter of fact, and a project that may not be going forward anymore, but there was something I brought to the board recently where there was also the question about subdividing into a nonconformity, which is something that certainly, I can see that as a concern, even though you have the authority to do it. Sorry, Mr.
Yeah, I don't want to make it more complicated, but I think Mr. D'Ambrosio brings up a good point, that you're putting 2 distinct structures on one lot. And if the owner sells the lot with the two distinct structures down the line, the town council just passed an ordinance about these family compounds. Now, can somebody come before the town council and say, well, hey, we got these two distinct structures on one lot, and we want to split them up and sell them to two different owners, and so now we're going to make a non-conforming lot. This is very strange. It's just, I don't know, I have no idea whether that would be possible, but I just think Mr. D'Ambrosio brings up a good point. It's very odd in a neighborhood that's generally single-family houses to have a single-family house that was turned into a two-family house that's gonna have another two-family house next to it that's a story taller. The whole thing is just kind of, and then what happens when, because eventually the property's gonna get sold, unless there is some kind of condo association or HOA or something that says all of these units have to stay together as one solid thing. I don't know, it just.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. McDonald.
Mr. D'Ambrosio bringing this up, there's a much broader issue. Accessory dwelling units, as Mr. Butler just pointed out, the very odd nature of this application, density bonuses. Because of an issue a month or two ago that I'm not going to bring up, I went and I read the comprehensive plan that pertained to the planning board. And just as a general statement, something that Mr. Modica may be aware of, with they're no longer new, but the existing legislation on land development, the comprehensive plan promulgated in 2016, good till 2036, supposed to be updated, examined next year. There are some sections, at least to the layman me, reading them, that it's affected by the legislation. And more broadly, and it's why the base reason why I read that 5-minute objection to the Haley's application, is that if you look broadly and looking at the comprehensive plan, it specs out a speculative population of the town at build out. And it says that zoning can change, it's a guesstimate. And the question I have that's unanswerable, but it would be nice to have at least a close answer, is what's that number going to be now because of the change in the zoning? And the idea of where we're headed with the ability of owners to manage their property, so to speak, and I am in favor of affordable housing. Where does this lead us? The thoughts I had is for members of the planning board to try to control future development. Not to take away any property owners' rights, but to control development, is to look at when depending upon certain circumstances, when it's an application before us, to use the request for variances and perhaps and try and lessen the impact of a particular application by refusing to grant variances while not taking away their right to develop property. They have a right to develop, but then they don't have a right to a variance. And then in density bonuses, and I just voted the previous vote for density bonuses. What do we do about, and it's, each of us has a right to vote in any which way he chooses within the regulations. The concept of not allowing a density bonus beyond what an applicant is entitled to. Somewhat of a cynic in that what I hear is that owners need the additional units to make the property, to make the project viable, that without them, they would not be able to profit enough in developing land. And we saw in the Haleys where they folded on 3 or 4 immediately. It was like an open negotiating session in June here. We saw the Broad Street that we just heard, go from 21 to 16. just, what are we doing? Are we giving away too much? And I don't have an answer for this. But I'm looking at this as broad as possible over a period of time. Where is this going? And when I would assume every community, except for well-developed cities, they must be facing the same issues. And I'm all over the board. I like to prepare stuff and read it so I can at least sound coherent. I know I'm not as coherent as I should be, I guess. But I hope you at least get my points and my concerns. And Mr. D'Ambrosio, it's insightful, him looking at this, and Mr. Butler piggybacking on it. I've spoken enough, thank you.
If I may, I mean, one of the good points you made many good points, Mr. McDonald, but one of the things you referred to was the updating of the comprehensive plan. And I would imagine that giving the sweeping changes to both chapters 24 and 23, 45, 23, and 24, you're going to see, I would assume, the comprehensive plan change pretty drastically, I would think. I mean, if in fact you're talking about future land use and where it's going to go and what the projections are for future population. Listen, I mean, to be honest, I mean, when I looked at some of this stuff back in the fall of 2023, I mean, I thought there was going to be a lot of shock value and a lot of questions about development, especially in towns like Cumberland, Smithfield, North Smithfield, or similarly situated towns. And your own council, I mean, you talked about what they passed recently, but your own council has resisted changing or amending their accessory dwelling unit ordinance to comply with the state requirements. So I do think that there's clearly, there are some attempts to try to get a grip on all of this. But in this instance, I mean, I think, again, and you talked about having, the density bonuses and whatnot and the variances. I mean, still, you have the authority with any variance you have to apply the standards that would be required of the zoning ordinance. So you do have that authority to grant or not grant the relief with respect to any dimensional issues and even use issues. Now, I mean, you're talking about number of, houses on a lot or whatnot in this instance. Again, if there are questions, if affordable housing is something that is desired, and I assume the comprehensive planning amendments going forward will reflect that, then, and you also have the authority, as you know, to impose conditions. So, and the conditions you impose may not be palatable. It may be, look, if you sell these two houses, and they are deed restricted. So that is on record, and that's the purpose, obviously, of the whole idea of ensuring that going forward, you maintain the affordable character of these units. So it's on record, and there could be, I mean, you could say that if you're going to go forward, guys, and you're going to further engineer this project and develop a site plan, then this is where we're looking at. You might want to come up with an answer for how you're going to market, to sell, to rent, whatever these properties in the future. If that is a question, good time to get it out. Now's the time. I mean, if that's something that you want us to further explore and come up with some sort of a solution that's acceptable, then so be it. If that's clearly it's an issue. We've heard from 3 members of the planning board, and there are more that may feel that way. So if that is a concern.
Just one more comment. I mentioned earlier a sweet spot, and that's what I think we're trying to find here. And with what I call a radical change, and I get what Speaker Sakarchi is trying to do in principle, but he took a very big bite. And the base problem is, I'll just speak for myself. I don't know. I don't know what the sweet spot is with density bonuses. But I do think one of the things that mentioned in the plan is about development, it's in different parts of the town, it's got to do with the zoning in certain places and vacant land. But the impacts of all this, water lines, sewerage, roads, extra more police officers, more firefighters, more schools. I'm not saying that that's not gonna happen, but that's what I'm trying to get at, is an orderly flow, so that we're not trying to, we don't pass something here and suddenly put the town in a position where, and I know I'm going a little overboard.
No, not at all,
I think
not at all.
You get my, what's proven?
I do.
I don't know. I don't know.
And I think a lot of planning boards and a lot of zoning boards and a lot of planning departments all over the state are still trying to grapple with a lot of it. I mean, let's face it. I mean, they are drastic changes. But I'm standing there saying, wait a minute, guys. I'm up here, I'm listening, and I understand the condos and townhouses and everything else as opposed to what this is, but I got 2 units. And it's like I'm destroying the comprehensive plan. I mean, you've just proved 18, 60, 90, whatever. And I got my 2 units, and I'm the scourge of the comprehensive plan. So, I mean, you know. But Mr. McDonald, in all seriousness, you make a lot of astute points. And I'm sure that some of them there just aren't answers to at this stage. And it's going to be challenging. That comp plan change is going to be challenging.
Can I just add a
Mr. O'Neill.
comment? Yeah, just so, because this is one of my favorite subjects. I'm sorry for the coughing. I'm getting over bronchitis and starting to lose my voice a little. So with the comprehensive plan, just for clarity, the town adopted that in 2016. It was approved by the state in 2017. Comprehensive plans get 10-year state approval, so our comprehensive plan is actually good until 2027, the state approval for the comprehensive plan, still valid at the local level. Build-out analysis, when we updated the comprehensive plan in 2016 and the council adopted it, we kept in several build-out analysis that were completed over previous years because we felt they were still pretty valid. So there's actually a couple different build-out analysis figures in the comprehensive plan if you look at the land use element of the comprehensive plan, and they make certain assumptions about population growth projections going back to the 2010 census and previous censuses. So to your point, I think we are getting in this discussion about, maybe it's time to really start thinking about where we're going to go in the comprehensive plan update, and I think it is a good thing for us to start thinking about, and certainly for the planning department to begin thinking about how we're going to address that, because it's time to start working on that and to not just dealing with all the, the variances and thinking about this incrementally, but I think it is appropriate for us to tackle it in the comp plan and maybe not throw it all on our friend here.
Gee, Ms. McDonald, I mean, I almost want to apologize.
Well, Josh, let me just say that extra year, it's comfort, but it's more cold comfort than, it's time to look at the plan.
Now, I always appreciate your comments, Mr. McDonald, and I know you do your homework.
I do have a question, okay? I'm looking at page 4, where it has the location map and the aerial map. And it seems as though that there's, and I think this is when we were talking about, and I think I seem to have read somewhere that the pool is sitting on 2 lots.
I believe, again, I went on to, I just did the GIS, actually, and it didn't indicate, it just shows, just to make sure, I'm almost positive that's what it showed. Yeah, because yes, and it just had, I actually referenced, and the planning department's staff report, which, as you know, is normally very well detailed. And I did see where they referred obviously to the one lot being, real small. What is it, 284, I guess? And so, and so it just occurred to me that if part of the building, maybe not so much the pool or other, amenities or whatever, but then if any of the part of the structure, and again, going back to what Ms. Reese referred to too, my recollection is that I know the town's position then, and I believe that was the law at the time, was that there would be like a de facto merger by the fact that it straddled the line. But again, I'm not sure if that's changed over the years. I haven't seen it in a while.
Well, when I was looking at this, I'm saying, well, okay, you know, this isn't something that's odd. I know another town that situation is rampant all over the place. But if you look at the houses directly behind this house.
Yes.
Okay, on Claremont Street, you can see how all these lot lines, they're 40-foot widths, okay? And they line up pretty well with these lots here on Oakwood Avenue.
Yes.
And then you see a house across, two houses, actually, three houses that straddle two lots. And it's like,
I mean, it's not out of, and, you know, it was
Yeah.
pointed out that it's really not separating for the moment, you know, the legal questions about ownership and about transfer, separating it out, when you look at this, it really isn't totally out of character for what you see on the GIS.
correct.
I mean, maybe the way it's lined up, the fact that one is, I use the word the T, and maybe the fact that it's not really an L, more of a T than an L or whatever, then maybe that is the only difference. But as far as looking at it, you know, I mean, visually, the GIS map, it really doesn't seem to be that out of character. And if you look, you know, I don't know, the 200-foot radius again, and one of the things I was going to say in the presentation was, even though it's pre-app, well, because it's pre-app, was that I really hadn't done an analysis of, you know, of the 200-foot radius as to what, you know, the percentage of the lot coverage, the percentage of you know, with respect to coverage to the surrounding area. But just visually, I mean, you look down, if you go, where's my north arrow here? If you go down to the corner of the GIS map down on Rosemont, I mean, that's the only other comparable size lot, really. I mean, visually in that, I'm not sure what the radius is on this GIS. I didn't do the 200-foot radius on the.
But the thing is that you brought up just you know, a short time ago about lot mergers. You know, and you look at this one and you say,
Well, you know, Cumberland is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, as far as lot size, I mean, Cumberland, I think still it's us and New Shoreham that don't have involuntary merger provisions. There's maybe one more.
Right. And I know the town council at one point was very hesitant to do so, but when you have a situation where you've got a house that straddles two
And I can't figure that
lots-
out, by the way, but.
Yeah, when you have a house that straddles two lots, and of course, this one here is right, let's see, what is the, I'll say the left because I'm not sure where I am.
Oh, yeah, right.
North or south, it's right
Right.
on the lot line.
Right.
Oh, okay, and it's like, well, it should be all,
And I don't know if, I mean, I don't know how up to date, well, they're pretty up to date. I mean, I don't know if these were legally merged at one point. I mean, some that you see a lot, I mean, there's a good amount of that. People, for tax purposes or whatever, will go in and they'll remove a lot line. But it's not like it used to be. You know, now it's done right. I mean, you have administrative subdivisions now. Back, you know, ages ago, you just, you know, you write it on a napkin or whatever, you know, but now it's got to be done right.
but I agree with Mr. D'Ambrosia. His point is very well taken.
Well,
as far as
I
I'm
think
concerned.
it's well taken from a point of that it's different from what you've experienced. Again, and I don't know, you know, all of the applications, obviously, that you've had the chance to review under the comp permit ordinance. But I would imagine that it's different in the sense that the projects are larger, they involve, you know, like you said, condos, which have, you know, they have a declaration, there's a unified sort of a management situation and a transfer situation.
Yeah,
You know?
so, I mean, my concern is that this looks like a private resident who has extra space is trying to put a new building on their land.
Yeah.
If we allow this, that means basically anybody in town could do the same thing. And I'm all for affordable housing, and I'm all for, I know we need more housing stock.
Yeah.
When the comprehensive plan comes up, we definitely need to look at how we're achieving that. I don't know that putting more units, more buildings on single lots is really the most effective way of doing so. I think it creates a lot of problems that are gonna come up down the road. You know, if the housing market crashes or something like that, how are you gonna move a lot that has 2 deed-restricted buildings on it? It's gonna become a statistical nightmare for anyone who's trying to move any sort of real estate in the future. And then do you split the lots? Are they non-conforming? So there's a lot of unknowns here, and it just seems like it's setting up a precedent that is maybe a little bit counter to what our goals may want to be in the comprehensive plan.
It may be, I mean, when it's ultimately decided, but I don't see this project as being any different from anything you've heard, other than the fact that you have a concern, which is great for, and I think, I mean, I don't know, and I assume it's not totally altruistic on your part with respect to what the owner's gonna do down the road. It's also about what hurdles the town may face with respect to transfers, about ownership, about management, things of that nature. So I think there's concerns on both sides, but I honestly don't think that it's really all that different. Now, you may say that, you know, it's, again, is it akin to an ADU? Well, you know, then again, you need 20,000 square feet under state law to have the ADU, so.
I do see it as being vastly different, though, than the other projects that we've looked at, because like you said, you have an LLC, you have a company that's coming in and developing something under a different set of guidelines, a different set of management rules. It's much different than a private resident who has extra space on their land taking on that management role.
I brought in a project to pre-app a month, 2 months ago, and there was, now granted that the lots were going to be split. The reason the lots were going to be split, which would have split into nonconformity, but there were 11 units already existing. And the reason, the basic reason for splitting the lots was so that because there were, all of the 11 units were occupied, and under the comprehensive permit law, they have to be, units have to be integrated into any existing building. I mean, it presupposes you're going to have pre-existing buildings. As far as I know, that's not any kind of a prohibition. Now, personally, or as a board, you may think that it is, which is fine, that's your prerogative. But I don't think there's anything in the statute or in the law right now that says, well, because, you know, you have to start from scratch under this new set of guidelines, as opposed to, you know, incorporating this into a situation where there's an existing building. So again, I think we just agree to disagree on the fact. I do agree, though, that based on what you've seen, this seems to be a bit different visually and conceptually, because now you're in a neighborhood as opposed to, you know, and I'm not saying that these other projects aren't in neighborhoods, clearly they are, but you know what I mean? In other words, it's not like a large swath of land now that someone's gonna go in and put 60 units or 40 units. It's you have a neighborhood, and now one of the houses is now adding a structure on the lot. So in that respect, probably for what you've seen so far, it probably is different.
I would just say, you know, to Mr. D'Ambrosio's point, to Mr. McDonald's point, I think the frustration we all have is it feels like we're flying a plane while we're building it. You know, the state passed these broad laws, and God bless them, people are coming to us with these very creative ideas that I don't think Joe Shikarchi or anyone else ever really gave any thought to. You know, it's nice when it's Ann and Hope and it's an existing building and we're gonna adaptively reuse a commercial and make it residential and 20% affordable and nice and easy, right? No variances, no nothing. I think it's, you know, we're seeing increasingly, and God bless them again, these creative things that fit into a comprehensive permit, but we just don't have rules. We never gave thought to these kinds of things, and it feels like Pandora's box has been opened, and it's not fair to punish somebody because we haven't figured it out, but I think that's the frustration we all have, and I'm sure every planning board in the state, that you thrust this on us, and now people are coming up with these creative ways to create more housing, which is great, but we never considered any of that in our comp plans or our zoning ordinances, or so we're running 100 miles to catch up. Once you think you get there, somebody else comes up with another proposal that's completely, you know, different than anything else you've ever seen. So it's,
But we're looking at it right now.
Where's the sweet spot, right?
Yeah. And we are not thinking about down the road in the future. You know, all the what-ifs that might arise down the road.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Pod,
Yeah.
Mr. Pod, we
Sure.
was talking, was there an addition put on this house?
The existing structure?
Yes.
I can ask Mr. Jabawi. Why don't you wait till he comes up and,
Of course, was there an addition put on this house? In other words, to make this little lot littler? If that makes sense.
I did not get the question. Can you just,
do you mind, do you have an objection to me?
No.
Okay, I mean, he just wants to have the existing house that's there now. Did you add on to that?
no, I never added anything. No,
Do
it's
you know
still
if
there.
anyone else did, the prior owner or anyone
No,
else did?
yeah, yes, I think they did addition in the past, on the left, on the right side of the house. They added extra to in the past.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. McDonald?
Mr. Partington?
Yes, sir.
The house, if it were to be approved, is it a relative that's moving in? Do we know?
I'm sorry, is it a what?
Is it a blood relative of the owner moving in?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, was it? Not that I know of. I don't think there's any,
Okay, let me just give you my thoughts.
Sure.
Somebody moves in. There's something in my mind about excessive dwelling units and it having to be a blood relative. Hold that thought.
Sure.
The house is built, somebody moves in. I would have to think that the person that moves in is a renter. A person cannot own a house on land that he doesn't own. So in effect, from a practical standpoint, and maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way, if you have a freestanding house and someone lives in it, particularly non-relative, assuming they're paying rent, what you've got is a freestanding house that's also the equivalent of an accessory dwelling unit.
yeah, what time is it? It's 9:30. I'm starting to lose it. It was a long day. But I think I alluded to that earlier, that, yeah, I mean, you could look at it if as almost being akin to that. But again, going to what's been going on up, at the State House, the proposals are now no longer has to be part of the primary residence, no longer has to be, for a family member, it no longer, so all of those things. And I think you said something about you can't own a house, you don't own the land under. I think you can, but
Yes, you can. There are areas in Rhode Island.
you can't, I mean, is that a land condo or,
Well, if you can,
You
then
rent
I'm
the land and
assuming
you
there's
own the
water
house.
backup, how it's disposed.
Ocean Mist.
I'm sorry.
North
If someone can own a home on land that he or she doesn't own, I'm assuming that there is law to cover all existing future contingencies, like there's a divorce and somebody wants to sell and somebody doesn't want to sell. I just can't get my arms around someone owning a home when somebody else owns the land under it.
well, but that wouldn't necessarily, but they're not gonna own, I mean, my understanding of how this will work, at least at this nascent stage, the only thing that I see is that as far as the planning stage is going, is that there's going to be a structure that's gonna be rental units. So the owner is not going to change. Now, again, if you're talking about now all of a sudden, the owner says, you know what, I have to sell one of these. Right. That's the issue. Now, that's different because now you're saying, well, okay, you want to sell one, but wait a minute. I can't allow you to subdivide this property because technically you can't subdivide into a that may change down the road. The Supreme Court's going to have to revisit that, I'm sure, as far as subdividing into a substandard lot in light of the permission that's given to you guys under the comprehensive permit law. That may be revisited. But no, that's a fair point, Mr. McDonald. And I think I got it, even in my diminished capacity at this point, yeah.
Now, Harry, I'm trying to follow your line of thinking here, and the only thing I can think of is a mobile home park, right? Would that be the only example where you could own the actual home but not the land underneath? That's the only thing I could think of.
Beach houses.
There's beach houses, there's Matunic.
That's true.
There's Narragansett,
That's true.
Okay.
you own a home, but you don't own the property. It's like a 99-year lease.
Interesting.
I think you ought to send a transcript of this meeting to the State House and let them,
They're all good points, they really are.
well, hey, again, look, I remember, I think I had this discussion way back when with Glenn, when, you know, when all planners were scrambling, you know, at the end of 2023 to try to make, and councils too, but really the onus was really on the planners, is to bring everything up to speed. That's a lot of law in a short period of time. And then once that's done, then it gets thrown at you guys, and a lot to what Mr. Butler said, and attorneys. I mean, it's like, hold on. You know, I mean, as recently, I think of July this year, there were some changes, you know, and I'm getting too old for that. You know, it's just, but it is what it is. So I'm not sure if at this point, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm getting is that not so much, it's the idea that there are concerns about ownership and how that's going to go forward as far as having the separate residence. There is not so much the concern about, or maybe it is density also that's a concern, but it's the locale maybe, and the fact that does this set a precedent for if someone doesn't have enough property for an ADU? Well, you know what, then we'll get a couple of affordable units and we'll do that. But the affordable units, again, there's a trade-off. You know, I mean, right now the rents, single family, I think, last time I looked, I think it was a pretty decent range, but you don't have any, there's no certainty to that. And 99 years, I mean, you guys are 3 times what the state recommends in their statute. So there is a trade-off. It's not as simple as saying, well, I don't have 20,000 square feet, so I'm going to put another building up. I'll get around it by saying I'm going to have comp permits. Well, that's true, but I mean, there's a trade-off for that as well. You're restricted.
And it's all dumped on the planning boards and
Well, that's why you guys get the big bucks.
it's not good talking about getting raises, because I haven't seen one in a long time.
I'd vote for that. Put it on a ballot. I'll vote for it.
Mr. Chairman, this philosophical conversation is confusing me somewhat. What questions do we need answered from the applicant before we hear back from Mr. Partington?
Thank you, sir.
That's a very good question.
That's my question.
Well, I think you already addressed the ownership. I would be interested, I think Mr. Zook brought it up, about how tall the houses are across the street in relation to how tall this
that's
additional
fair. Sure.
house would be, and how it would relate to the existing structure. So what kind of the height differences are, and the effect that that would have on the abutter to the right, I guess.
And to the extent that, again, I'm not sure based on what the concerns were, I'm not sure how important what goes on with the 200-foot radius is to you as a planning board. I mean, again, I think that, again, visually from the GIS, you can see that it wouldn't necessarily be out of character with what is its surrounding area, given the lot sizes, you know, and some of the, I mean, you look at the properties and some of the small, like, again, you pointed out, Mr. Kuchar, some of the small lot sizes and the, you know, I mean, you've got in Cumberland now, you've got very small lots with, 4 units, and you've got, but that's from way, way back. This is different.
So I'm hearing ownership, height, neighborhood character, comp plan consistency.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I have to bring that up, huh?
How can a house fit into that spot and be part of the neighborhood? I don't understand.
Well, again, if you, let's say, look across the street. There are two houses within a much shorter distance. I mean, and again, I could be wrong about that. I'm looking at it visually on a GIS map. I could get out there and measure it, and I could be totally wrong about that. But at least appearance-wise, it looks as if the two houses across the street are actually two houses and a shorter span than what's being proposed here. Or short, width. Span is probably not the right word.
I think I'd be a little angry if I was in that house that's there now, and then this little shoebox is gonna go in between my house and next door neighbor.
Oh, yeah, I don't, and again, doing this as long as I have, I certainly presupposed that there would be some pushback from the neighborhood. I mean, you know, and I know that I've discussed it with the client about that, and, you know, he's aware of it, and I'm not so sure at this point, and I always advocate speaking prior to. That doesn't always work. You know, I don't think you got anything to lose, because if they throw you off their property, at least you know they're coming, you know, I mean, so.
Yeah, true.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, I have a follow-up question. Would it make any sense then to ask for, you know, a similar type of report that we see from folks like Mr. Ed Pimentel, who was here earlier, just kind of describing zoning consistency, comp plan consistency, neighborhood characteristics? I know he does those types of write-ups. It may be beneficial to have something like that for the next time.
I mean, and again, I appreciate the suggestion, because you are trying to bring some closure to this discussion, which is also appreciated. I would just say that I understand the request. I mean, you know, at a pre-app, you obviously, the hope is that you can avoid further excessive costs with what we get from pre-app. That's not always the case, because you guys you can't say for certain what's going to happen in the future with your votes. I understand that. Mr. Pimentel, don't come cheap. I love Ed to death, okay? He's a dear friend. Nor should he, by the way. Nor should he come cheap. I don't know if, I'm certainly not an impartial viewer at this point. I don't know if you would accept at least a proposed report from me on what actually exists on the ground, as opposed to anything theoretical. I certainly would be willing to do that. And if what I turn out doesn't appear to be impartial enough, then I can make the pitch to the client about whether it's worth it at this point to have that kind of analysis. And I'm not sure, I mean, again, I would imagine that it's simply going to be a reflection of what the ordinance says and what the surrounding area is what you've already, and that's what the planning board has already asked about, was the surrounding area, neighborhood character, heights matching up, you know, and things of that nature. But I'm willing to consider anything, you know, that you propose. I can always get back to the planning department as to whether there's going to be any further, you know, any further movement on this in light of what you guys are looking for.
I'm sure we're not the only town in this state that's juggling this same
Oh, God,
scenario.
no, trust me, you're not.
Can I jump in for just 1 second?
Please do.
So just getting back to comprehensive plan consistency, just so you know, that was stricken from the findings of fact, so it's consistency only with the housing element. That's what we're looking at, not the whole plan. You know,
That's the element, the housing element.
the housing element, not the comp plan in its entirety. So that's what we have to, that's the only thing we can lean on, you know, and we would prepare the findings of fact if this project moves forward, you know, for approval or denial, which you guys can agree or disagree with. You know, and when we first saw this project, you know, we weren't wild about it. You know, we were, you know, it was totally different, right? We've never seen something like this. And, you know, the planning department, we do encourage creating more affordable housing, and we're trying to do it where it makes sense. And it gave us great pause because it's a single-family neighborhood. It's like, so it was very, very difficult in evaluating this and how it would fit in. So, we worked with the applicant to kind of reduce the request to something that we thought would fit in here with a small building with 2 units, because initially the request was much greater than this. So I think we brought it down to a level where it makes sense here, but I understand the newness of the uniqueness of it all, where you have an existing residence and now we're building 2 units. So that's something we got to grapple with. How do we move forward with that? But that's the way of the world. That's the way we're going, and we're trying to move with it, baby steps at a time. And so we don't think this is a bad proposal. We think for this location in this area, we felt, okay, this could work here.
And just briefly with that, and it is an area of town, like I haven't been to the zoning board in a while, but I don't think anybody else has either, but I remember going for relief in the valley, and one of the things you would always point out is again, for this area of town, I mean, this is not really an outlandish project, and there's always the other side of it that, well, what does it portend, I guess, is the other side of it. But I think the planning department has tried to hit the sweet spot, if I could use Mr. McDonald's terms, with respect to this project. There was, again, I believe there was initially 4 units additional proposed, if I'm not mistaken. And the planning department said, no, scale back the impervious coverage, make it more in line with what's in the neighborhood, as the report indicates. So I don't want to belabor it. As always, thanks for the discussion. It's always appreciated.
Mr. Chairman, perhaps Mr. D'Ambrosia's main point, page 2, down at the bottom, the staff report. Multifamily developments are not permitted in R2 zones. The property is not permitted to have 2 principal residential buildings on one lot. An adjustment is required to allow a second principal building. And I've seen relief, I've seen variance, I've never seen an adjustment. And perhaps the way to solve this is to have the owner reconsider and somehow construct on the property what would be considered, what's acceptable now as an accessory dwelling unit that's somehow connected to the house. I understand Mr. Partington's point about you've got different parts of town and different characteristics and all that, but this gets back to what Mr. Butler's saying, flying by the seat of our pants. If we do something like this, what do we possibly create for the future? And I keep looking at the long view on all this. And I feel badly about what I just said regarding the owner. He wants to make maximum use of his property, but he's bumping up something that's pretty significant. You're not supposed to have 2 houses on one lot in an R2 zone. It's that simple.
So just to clarify one thing, Mr. McDonald, when you said you hadn't seen an adjustment, do you mean an adjustment like the word adjustment, or allow 2 buildings on a lot?
Right.
Adjustment's just the term used for comprehensive permits, for a variance.
Variances.
Variance, a waiver, it's all the same thing. And, with the ADUs, we're going to go kicking and screaming and not allowing them, but, there's going to come a time where we're going to have to at some point. So we can hold back as much as we want, but, the times come, we're going to have to figure out what road we want to go down. And because ADUs is difficult, it's better than an ADU, I think, because they're affordable.
That's the trade-off, Mr. Monica, that's what I was talking about.
Right.
It's not sidestepping, to put an ADU in, well, I can sidestep the ADU because I don't have 20,000 square feet. It really isn't, because you're giving something back with the affordable and the restriction, and the length of the restriction.
My concern is, and this is what I'm juggling, okay, is, I know Mr. McDonald's talking about, 2 units on one lot. It's going forward down the line somewhere, and all of a sudden, the person doesn't want to own all of that, okay? He only wants to own this house, or he wants to sell. How do you do
Understood.
it?
Understood. And
That's the biggest thing.
we'll try to address that. I'll speak to Mr. Jabawi about that. And I would rather not get into, and I have a similar situation in another town right now. And, the alternative I got was to condo it. And, and I just, for 2 houses, if there are any way around that, the other problems that causes with 2 houses on a 16,000 square foot lot, forget about the density aspect of it, but just the day-to-day operation of it, that's a recipe for war. I mean, so.
When somebody comes in and says, I only want to buy this house, I don't want that one.
Well,
Yeah.
well, no, and again, it's on both sides. The
Yeah.
town wants to make sure that it doesn't create something that, from an ownership perspective and management, that is a problem for them. By the same token, he doesn't want the problem either. He doesn't want to deal with that, any problem with marketing down the road.
That's why we don't like single driveways. That was something that.
I remember, yes, I remember. Like detention ponds, right, yes. Right, yes, right.
Those two.
Oh, don't bring that.
The D word, right, yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
But listen, I will, again, I respect the comments. I think they were all well thought, and they were, understood, especially in the context of what we're dealing with and the changes. In that context, certainly I can't, with a straight face, say that those comments are out of line, concerns about where we're going and concerns of what, and by the way, who knows what future changes there are going to be. I mean, I don't think it's done yet.
Oh, no. Not by a long shot.
And I've also heard, and I don't know how good my sources are, that these changes, they're in stone. They're not going anywhere. So, because I know, there's been some pushback, obviously, but.
Yes, Mr. Zook, I'm sorry.
That's all right, thank you. Yeah, this discussion is making my head hurt, trying to think about where I land on this. When I saw this on paper, when I saw this on the map, I did think there's no way that this can fit in there.
Right.
When I drove down the street and looked at the neighborhood, I thought, okay, there's some, especially those 2 houses across the street, there's some similar situated houses that are a little closer to each other. So I thought, okay, maybe this could work. I definitely get and agree with the thoughts about why this is so different.
Yep.
Residential property, you have an existing house, trying to put another house on the same lot, all these things we've talked about. And I hope I expressed myself clearly here, but I'm also thinking that if this lot were vacant and the applicant came to us and said, hello, I want to build 2 units, 2 buildings, 4 units, 2 of them affordable on this lot, I'm asking for these variances, these adjustments. It's not conceptually a whole lot different from a lot of other projects that we see.
Maybe, but.
The vacant lot, he wanted to put 2 structures on it, 4 units. We'd say, okay, it's gonna be a homeowners association and a condo,
Yep,
because
good
we're
point.
gonna link these 4 units together. This is a 1-family, they converted into a 2-family, now you're adding another 2 units.
And the planning board.
Very strange.
Sorry, Andy.
Yeah.
And the planning board may also say, with the 2 buildings, they may say, well, no, tell you what, make it one building with 4, with 2 stories or 3 stories, or whatever it may be. So, no, and that's something we'll try to address. Ownership clearly is an issue, but that's a great point that you make, that, when you, yeah, I mean, what if it was vacant? Well, it's not, I understand that, it's not. So, but if that's the issue is, how the ownership going forward, how that's managed, once that is satisfied, then it goes back to what was said, that the example, that it isn't, it would be like you're looking at it like it's a vacant property, except for the fact that, again, it's in a neighborhood, and it's not a huge parcel, it's in the middle of the neighborhood, or on the corner of one of the streets, it's right in the middle of the neighborhood. Yeah.
I just want to make it clear that it's not the location necessarily or the character of it.
Okay, yeah.
It's the principle of putting another unit on a residential lot and using it as a whole separate building for residential. It has nothing to do with the scale of it, it has nothing to do with the locale. I'm fine with all that. If it was a non-conforming lot and someone wanted to build a house on it that looked like what they've proposed, it would fit and it would be fine. But I just want to make it clear that, like, my issue is the principle of allowing a citizen to put another building on their lot because they have a little bit of extra space where they can shoehorn it in. I think as planning board, we should be planning for the right type of development, and I don't think that is the way that we should be
Okay,
doing
well,
it.
can I ask the one question then? Putting aside the moment for the management or the ownership issue, which I get completely, okay? But based on what you just said, okay, then if it's not the management issue, then I don't see, so the fact that someone has a 16,000 square foot lot that's vacant in the middle of a neighborhood, and they go in and they propose to put 2 units, 2 separate buildings, and meet all the density requirements that are afforded by the comprehensive permit, then going back to the example, I don't see how that's different. Now, you may say, well, no, it's the idea that there is a house there, I can't get past that. And
No,
I can accept that.
It's not the fact that there's already an existing structure on there. It does go back to the management of that. Because what you're opening up the door to is anybody who has space on their land can then put a whole other building that they are responsible for the management of.
Well, maybe this is the way, maybe that and I don't know, but maybe a precedent will be set with this, with that obviates that problem in the future, so that affordable units can be proposed where there is, again, there's a trade-off. 99 years, that's a trade-off. LMI, 80%, all those are trade-offs. So if the town's going to be given the affordable units, and there is that trade-off, and the management, quote unquote, or, yeah, I think it's the best word to use probably, then I don't see an issue with it. I think that the example about I still think the example of the vacant lot is a good one. Again, as long as it's satisfied, because I'd want the client and the owner to not have to worry about that going forward. I don't want to create that problem. I don't think he wants to create the problem either.
But I think it will, and that's my
Yeah,
worry.
no, and I get it. I understand, and your point is taken, and I understand it. And I think, again, for the client's perspective, or for benefit as well, that ought to be resolved. So, thank God there's no vote taking that.
Well, we thank you.
No, I thank you,
Well, you're giving us something to think about, too,
well, like I said, you ought to send a copy of this off to Mr. Shikarchi, the transcript.
Yeah, let him make the decision.
Thank you very much, guys, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I will be
thank
in
you.
contact with the planning department, and I will look into the issues that have been raised. And again, the client has to decide whether going forward, and that doesn't mean that there won't be more issues raised as we go forward, if we do. And that's understood. So, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Okay. All right, we got. Yep, no, we got number 9. Sure, go ahead. Go ahead. Jeez, yeah.
I'm good. No, he's also needing.
Yeah, so, okay, yep, okay.
Always nice to know when you turn around, there's gonna be somebody right behind you.
We got one more to go.
You, do it.
Chairman, just as we discussed, I'm recusing from the final conversation because of my agency's involvement and funding of this project, and I'll be bidding you a good evening.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So you're gonna leave me too, huh? Gee.
So you.
Pretty soon I'm gonna be all by myself up here, you know?
Yeah, stick around, it's early.
Okay. This
Yeah, so the
is-
board, we discussed this a couple months ago.
Yep.
We gave you a lot of information to digest and figure out. So we thought, give you another opportunity, give you some time to look over what we sent you. And so we're coming back here to find out if you have any questions or concerns or, anything you want to add about what Nate Kelly and his team over at the Horsley Witten Group have put together.
Okay.
So,
Sorry to keep you all night, but,
no, please, this is what I do. So that was a fascinating discussion. You're gonna have fun with your comp plan, I can tell. So I guess just by way of introduction, not to belabor it, because you have had the material, sure thing. So again, I'm Nate Kelly from Horsley Witten, and we had given you folks sort of a stack of regulatory reform to think about. Some of it is going to come across this board with the land development regulations and with the zoning ordinance. Some of it will not. There's some general code things, but we gave you everything so you could get a sort of full landscape of what we're looking at. And the hope, and so where we are in the process, of course, there's no vote tonight. This is not a hearing. And I believe on October 22nd, Glenn, we are going to head to a public meeting, right? So in terms of this process, again, the draft that you have, we'll call it 80% complete. We haven't done the checklists. We haven't done the definitions. We sort of saved those for last. So there's this stop tonight. There's the public meeting on October 22nd. And the hope is at that point is we bring this to, a 98% complete full draft that's ready for hearing. The purpose of tonight's meeting is hopefully just to, hear if anything jumped off the page, if there's anything that we really need to think about before we go to the public meeting, or if there's anything that maybe not for the public meeting, but before the public hearing with you all that you really want us to dig into or come back to you with any information, any red flags, questions, technical questions. We did just have a meeting with sort of an ad hoc kind of technical committee, not a planning board technical committee, but so we had DPW in the room, someone from the zoning board, so people who are using this material, other practitioners, other staff, to get their take on some of this, and they gave us some. By and large, I think people are happy in that group with it. There were a couple of technical items that we're going to look into, maybe dress things up a little bit, make some adjustments to what you have in front of you. But that's where we are in the process. And, again, hoping to hear from you tonight. Is there anything we need to be aware of as we go forward into these next phases?
Mr. Zook.
Hello. I read through this stuff. I seem to like most of it, or all of it. I have a couple little typo edits. I don't know if you want
No,
those.
let's run, great point. Let's run typos and word choice and omissions. Let's run those through staff.
Okay.
And we'll take those and
Send them in that
make sure we
direction.
get them, yeah.
So my one sort of big picture, maybe medium picture questions. All right, chapter 17, page 19 to 20, the variances. Oh, all right. If a variance is granted.
Which piece are you looking at?
Chapter 17, the flood hazard areas.
Okay.
Page 19 to 20 of the draft. I have to remind myself what I'm talking about here. All right, so it talked about granting a variance. And the question that popped in my head is that, is there a way to, if the property is sold, is there a way to warn future buyers about the variance that's granted? I think in relation to flood risk. I'm naive about a lot of this, so maybe something's in place already, or maybe this is the wrong question to be asking, but
No,
that's something
this is a
that popped into my
fascinating
head.
question, and I'm not even sure I can give you a definitive answer on that, because a lot of this, some of the issues that we explored, and there's another person on my team, Craig, and also Kelly, who are, really into floodplain management issues, and they got really deep into some of this stuff. And this idea of disclosing information is really interesting, because, if you're in an insurance situation, you have to disclose information, and there's protections around that because of private property interests. And that made some of the approaches that we were considering taking, we took them off the table because of some of these reporting and confidentiality issues. I do think, with that said, this wouldn't be something that your regulations would address. This would be something that your staff would address. I'm not sure, for example, we didn't get into some of the more basic procedures that you have, like just getting a zoning certificate. Like, what happens when someone comes into the building official and says, can I get a zoning certificate? I'm thinking about buying this property, I just want to make sure. So if somebody knows enough to do that due diligence, there should be a moment there where they can get this information, where they can understand. Not everybody knows to do that, right? And so that's the issue that you run up against. Not everybody's going to go for a zoning certificate. They're going to buy a home. Love this home, it looks great. Lo and behold, I'm in a 100-year floodplain and I had no idea. So that really comes down to, I think, processes that get embedded in staff, not regulation.
Typically, we don't deal with floodplains here because we're not down by the ocean. Okay?
Yep.
I used to work for the town of North Kingstown, and it was always residents coming into the engineering to find out if they're in the floodplain. And sometimes you'd have to go out there and survey and determine the elevation of where their house was relative to the flood zone, because but here, we know one flood zone would be where One Mendon Road is, all in that whole area, where the old drive-in used to be. We know that.
And an inch can make a difference, right?
Right. But when you're down in North Kingstown, where that's almost, that's an everyday happening, when people are always coming into the office, because even the insurance companies, because they know they're down on the shore, they will say you've got to, find out, where your house is relative to the flood elevation and so on. Here, we kind of are in the dark.
Yeah. I mean, the good news, I guess, silver lining, I don't know what you want to say, is, with more and more problems comes more and more awareness, and people are becoming more and more aware of this type of thing going on. You look at the rain we had today, and it's just, this kind of thing is just becoming more commonplace, so people are starting to ask the right questions more commonly.
Well, flood zones in this area, how did they get to be? Development, okay? And like when you're down there on the shore, that's just what it is. Here, it's like, oh, we never flooded here before, and all of a sudden, that's the flood. Huh?
My backyard.
There we go with the tension pond. Yeah, but sure. That is a good point.
Yeah, and again, just in terms of, stating the obvious for you all, but, your priorities, you'll be looking at, for example, drainage and landscaping. That's yours, right? That's in land developments, you're gonna own that, and so those provisions are obviously ones that you'll pay close attention to. And then on the zoning side, it's, there's some housekeeping that go along with that, and then the parking is in the zoning. We didn't do a lot with parking, but, there's stuff to look at in there. I think where our work gets most complex, and you lean on us for that, is the way this is all sort of woven together. I think one of the great benefits that the town gets from a project like this is you get someone from the outside who can sort of look at this and say, you said this twice in two different places, and so let's just say it once. Or you said it twice in two different places and you said it differently. How are we going to reconcile that? So we were able to do a lot of that, like that cleanup as part of this.
What else comes to mind? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, honestly, all typos and all that stuff, send them right to Mr. Modica and we'll get those.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, he's got edits, he's gonna give us a call.
Oh, you're gonna give me, oh, okay.
There was a diagram where the setbacks, the numbers didn't match what was in the
Oh,
text.
okay.
Where was that? All right, 7A, right-of-way standards. I can't read my writing. Page 11, I think, the bottom of page 11, 7A and 7D, not consistent with the distances on the diagram.
So this was probably the landscape buffers?
Yes, like the distance between a tree and a hydrant and a tree and the driveway.
Good catch.
Oh, the sightline diagram. Okay.
Let's see, right-of-way standards, page 11. Tree and shrub placement.
Yep, that's your sightline diagram. We'll check that. That was actually one, and the error could certainly be on us. That was a diagram that you already have, and the intent was just to copy it and give it a facelift, and we may have made a mistake when we did that, so we'll check that.
Yeah, 7A and 7D. The distances are not what are shown in the diagram, yeah.
Great.
It proves that I read it.
Especially for this time of night, that's impressive.
There's a lot to read. And I don't think anybody else has any questions, comments?
All right, so we will take that as a green light to bring this right to the public meeting, informational public meeting, October 22nd at the library. Is that right?
It's in the community room at the library.
Okay.
Down the hall, when you just go up those little steps.
Right, and we're putting together flyers and things for that now.
The big
so-
room, not down.
The big room, yeah.
And then from there, we'll determine a public hearing schedule with you all.
One other side door. Side door?
Oh, that's, you mean the Hayden Center?
Yeah.
No, because those are the other rooms. Those are like,
Big one.
they don't call them, the ones over in the Hayden Center. Those, are those community rooms, or are they just?
No, those are like rooms 1 through 5.
Yeah.
In the Hayden Center.
That's when you go up the stairs, it's the old part.
Is that where that is? That meeting is? You go the old door?
You don't, it's not in the Hayden Center. If you just go in the library, make a left, go up the steps, down, like middle of the hall on your right. It's the historic part of the building. All right, so you guys are good.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nate.
Jake, you have waited through all this time and have all this little bit to talk about. But we are fried.
Yeah, that was a marathon there at the end.
And it's always the little project sometimes that becomes the one that you discuss the most.
No pun intended.
What?
Little project.
Yeah.
To adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Butler, seconded by the entire board. All in favor? Yay!